gonna have a great topic tonight. So I want to welcome my guest. I got Mr. Anthony Ali here. How you doing, Anthony?
What's up? I'm doing all right. How you doing?
What's up? I got Mr. George. You know, I got my partner in crime, George. So what's up, George?
I'm doing wonderfully well, and I hope everyone is on this fabulous Friday.
Absolutely. Okay, let's jump right into it. So I was doing some research and I found a couple interesting things, right? This is something we kind of already know. Like it's kind of obvious. Like we're a product of interracial dating. So of course we'd be more willing to date outside of our race because nobody is telling biracial people, oh, just you have to find another biracial people. How you know how monoracial people it's like white people, like a lot of them are instilled, oh, you have to find somebody who looks like you better not bring home a black person or a white person. They want to keep it in within their race, right? We're
Right.
not taught because it wouldn't make no sense. It'd be hypocritical to teach us that, right? So that's something I think that's a very important topic that we have to talk about. That it really does affect us. We really don't date each other. According to like all these studies and information, it's like we really don't date each other. But it's really interesting because I feel like all the studies show that most biracial people date white people. And I'm like, that's kind of against my personal experience because I feel like most biracial people, since we're one drop ruled, we identify as black. And since most people stay within their in group, they date black. So it's really interesting to me. Like, what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think? Do you think biracial people, because like I'll show you according to this.
Does it say
according-
which what like combination of biracial people?
Okay, it says biracial daters who identify as part white will to preferring to a white partner. So it says anybody who's part white usually dates a white partner. And it says white Hispanics and white other daters are less willing to state a preference to date Asian. I think this is about like Asians compared with black Hispanics. Let me see. It said if a biracial dater didn't identify as white, they are more likely to want to date someone who partially the same race or ethnicity. For example, black Hispanics or black white daters were 26, 10, 73 times more likely willing to select the African American as a suitable romantic partner compared to white Asian counterparts. The research found daters who were part black and some other race were approximately 11 times more likely to date Asian white daters to seek out who had identified. So it was basically more about how you identify, is more likely who you're going to date, right? So, but they were saying that, where was it? I'm just trying, I think I skipped it. My bad. I skipped the part that I found interesting. Hold on. It's right here. Where is it? Okay, it says millennials are much more open to interracial dating. A lot of them come from interracial families. Candidate, biracial individuals have a greater willingness to date outside their racial category. McGrath added, but they still follow a triracial hierarchy where white daters have the highest status. Honorary whites, a term coined by sociologist Edward Bolivia Sylvia that includes some Asian, Middle Eastern, white immigrants fallen. So I've I don't give white people like a higher like I guess when it comes in the dating world, there's like a hierarchy, and they say that biracial people give white people the highest status in the racial hierarchy dating world. What do y'all think about that? Like I think that's weird. What y'all think?
So, I wouldn't really deny that any of that stuff is true, but I think the articles are also missing something too. So,
Hmm.
I'm reading this book called Demystifying Diversity by
Hmm.
Darylise Lyons, and she is an amazing black white biracial sister. And me and
Yeah.
her have even partnered up. So, she also threw in a stat there that a lot of us are pretty much aware of. So,
Hmm.
black white mixes are 3 times more likely to be black identifying.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So, a lot of us come from that.
Hmm.
We tend to know each other's stories. And a
Hmm.
lot of us are actually going to date a black partner just because of how black
We
identifying
identify as
we are.
black.
Because
Exactly.
it's been like the community that we have become the most familiar with. And it's also the one that we want to fit in the most with. So
Right.
like you notice how a lot of those like pro black back to Africa types or
Hmm.
Afrocentric types tend to actually have like a partner with us
Yeah.
or like a partner who's like us. So
Hmm.
that in itself already speaks a lot of high volume. So I think that's what this article isn't mentioning. That
Mm,
especially if you are somebody of Afro descent, even if you
yeah.
actually are biracial or triracial, you're very black identifying.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it
Okay,
goes
I'm
back
back.
to, oh, you're back. Okay, cool.
Yeah, sorry
So
about that.
you good? So it goes back to, I bring up Cynthia G, right? Because she like deep dives into like the whole pathology of biracials, and she basically has this theory. She basically says that, oh, biracial people, they're just basically the new white people, because if a biracial person gets with a white person, you're basically creating a white child, right?
Well,
And she said,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, you're good. She said that I think she's making this up, because I didn't find any like any links or anything to, like, what is she going off of? I don't know what study or what thing, but she said 80%, according to whatever she said, 80% of biracials in the UK date white, and they're gonna create, like, they're just like they're creating new white people, basically. Like, we're just new white people. That's what we date. But it's like, so I don't know. I guess that's in the UK. I don't know if what she's saying is correct or not. But to me, what I see in the United States, and there's the one drop rule enforced here, that most of us date black, right? So because we don't really, it goes back to our identity. It's like we don't really have a strong identity. If most black people, most biracial people identify as black, of course they're gonna date black people. They're not gonna go seek out. It's nothing like it. There's how many, I don't think very many biracial people like intentionally go and seek other biracial people. I think they could find them, because the proximity thing is a very huge factor. How it's like, some areas there's a lot of mixed people, like in California, mostly on the West Coast, and
Yeah.
I maybe in the South. We're everywhere, actually. Let's be real, we're everywhere. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of us. So I think if we actually did intentionally seek out like mixed people to date, but I don't think we do that. I think we're not taught to, like, we most like how I was raised. I dated people of all races, like, but I end up marrying like a biracial person. But it wasn't like an intentional thing. I just end up really liking him, and he ended up really liking me, and we end up marrying. But it wasn't like, oh yeah, I really want to go date a biracial person, like. So
Well, I
that's
would
something.
say, like I said, I don't know if I didn't hear George's last part, but I didn't. You said, did this article not say like the combination? It didn't really say, or just like kind of like
Kind of did.
vaguely, just like, okay, biracial. Like,
Yeah,
I
Like,
though,
didn't.
like what I said basically is that usually us black white mixes,
Hmm.
mhm.
we tend to be so black identifying, and we are more likely to be like that at a three times rate.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So
and then I also lastly then said is that you notice how many of like those pro black leader types or the back to Africa types or the Afrocentric types tend to actually have a partner who's like us.
yes,
mhm.
that's right.
Mm.
That's
Where
what
are
I've
you
seen.
from, Georgia? Like, what part of the U.S.?
Born and raised in Berkeley, California, the Bay Area.
Okay, so you both. Okay, so it might be different because I'm on the Northeast, so I don't know exactly how it is over there as far as like if there's a lot of mixed people. I don't know, but like here, I would say like for the most part, I would say 9 out of 10 times the people I see that are like mulatto usually date black or Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
That's what I
Same
see.
here. Same
Exactly.
here
Okay.
though,
Exactly.
except yeah, you mean you live there on the East Coast, so there is going to be like a large like Puerto Rican or Dominican population, but
Yeah.
out here, I
Mhm.
mean, like there's not too many people who are Puerto Rican or Dominican, so we're not really going to be that inclined to dating them because there's probably so few of them out here. But
Hmm.
usually
Mhm.
here on the West Coast, I've oftentimes seen those like us with black partners, along with us being black identifying.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share another article. So this one, like, I'm just doing research. Most of the research I found was about, oh, mixed people being fetishized. Because a lot of the research, I was saying that biracial people are very preferred in the dating realm, but at the same time, it's like we're very much fetishized. So this is like a lady from the UK that's talking about. But I want to let everybody know my stance on this. So I do want to promote biracial people coming together. Like, the whole point of this is to address some of the main issues. So, like, in order to have a community, right? It's like you're gonna have to date each other. So I do believe
Yeah.
that we should. So what do you guys agree with that, or what do you guys' stance on, like, biracial families and people coming together? I want to see that more often. It's very rare. So it's like we should promote that, just to, have somebody who you could really relate to, have somebody you could really understand. Of course, you could date whoever you want. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it should be
Yeah.
nothing forced or anything like that. Like, you should be able to date whoever you want. Like, but at the end of the day, I think that there's a lot of programming and a lot of things that hold us back from each other, from the people who do want to date another biracial person. So that's my
You
All
go
right.
stance.
first, Mr. Anthony, and then I'll go.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Oh,
Now I would say I completely agree, and like I've heard, like I never really thought about it. And I think a lot of people who are like biracial or like, specifically mulatto, like I don't feel like we even think about that. Like sure, in my lifetime I've like talked to women who were also like mulatto, but I never thought about like I thought about for a quick second, like, oh, we're both mixed, but it was never like a oh, I should be with her. Like, how some people might have like maybe there might be an Indian family and they want their kid to marry an Indian woman. So he probably already has that built into him. Like his parents are telling him. Like I've met people like that, right? That are Indian or Chinese, and their family's already telling them. But like with us, it's like we don't really get that, and it's like so yeah. I noticed it, like okay, we're both mixed, but I didn't feel like a sense of like we should be together, like nothing more than just noticing it, right? And I actually had an ex girlfriend who was actually biracial, but she was Peruvian in white, and she's brought it up like, oh, it's cool that we're both mixed, and she has a one of her brothers is also married to another biracial person. So it actually does happen. But like I don't feel like it we don't look at ourselves as like a community really.
yeah, we don't
Um
really have like a like culture is tied to race very much too. So it's like a lot of like Indian people, like you said, it's like they want to preserve their culture. So they're gonna date somebody who's of the same race and cult. It's mostly about culture. Like even in Africa, right? It's like they promote people dating within their tribe. It's like everybody black, right? But at the same time, it's
yeah.
like they promote people dating in their tribe to preserve their culture. But we don't really have a culture. Like I've addressed this earlier in streams, how some biracials are culturally more white and some biracials are culturally more black. But the thing about my relationship, I feel like I'm a little bit more culturally more. I was raised in a white community, and then my husband, he was raised in a black community. But I'm kind of both. I was raised in the white community, but I lived in the black community too. I lived in Atlanta for 10 years, so it's like I know both sides. But I was kind of raised up more, so I kind of more culturally identified like that. But
Mhm.
but now I culturally identify as both. Like I culturally identify as like biracial, but we don't even know what that means. Like there's no real culture around being biracial, really.
I'm gonna be
So it's
honest.
like
I'm gonna,
yeah.
I'm gonna pass the mic to Georgia in a second, but I just wanted to say something. I realized, in my lifetime, it's funny because I would meet people who were like mixed, like biracial or
Hmm.
whatever, and it was funny
Hmm.
because sometimes I'll meet people and they're like I'll be like, oh, like what are you? Obviously thinking they're probably Latina or something, and then it's like, oh, I'm black and white, and then it's funny because certain people like I've met are really more like open to calling themselves biracial if they grew up in like both like the two
Mm.
parent home, and then
Yeah.
people who aren't are more like because like me I never use that term, like I only use
Mhm.
that term on this space, like I've used mix growing up but never
Mhm.
biracial, like I don't know, it has like a negative because it's almost like saying you're not really nothing, it's like you're two things and
Yeah,
like
you're
I don't really
too.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Mhm.
like yeah, so like I've noticed that, and I'm like in my head, I'm like, you got that pro-black mindset. So I'm like, oh, why don't you just say you're black? Like in my, I didn't say this, but like I'm thinking it. Like, why don't you just say you're black? You know.
Mhm.
So it's just something that I've noticed. Like,
Yeah, definitely. All right. Georgia, you had something to say?
Yeah, like so regardless of who we get with, that needs to always develop organically. But it's just like what comes with us is that we don't really have that collective mindset. A lot of
Mhm.
us tend to be very individualistic. So we're just going to go about with our day to day business without even remotely thinking about forming any kind of collective agency with those who are like us. But, you know, that's also another thing. Another thing is that we didn't really grow up together. A lot of us have not really grown up and have never really formed such strong relationships with other people who are like us. So that also factors in. So just that, along with just the individualistic nature among us, is also probably why it's just never really on our radar to really date each other or to stick with each other or try to
Mhm.
form some type of collective cultural boundary or collective cultural tie with one another.
Mhm. Exactly.
yes, I completely
Exactly.
agree.
But I wanted to talk about, yeah, I've dated other biracial of other mixes. Like I've dated a guy who was half white, half Filipino. I've dated a Latino guy. I've dated a guy who was half white, half Hispanic. And yeah, I've dated a black guy. I dated a white guy. And yeah, I have but my husband is biracial. And yeah,
But you
so
notice how it seems like we don't have the same like feeling of like we can literally date anybody without feeling like we're
anybody,
doing anything. Like for
right?
example, like if somebody who is black on both sides and they if they're walking around with somebody who's like white, they probably do have this sense of like, am I doing
A racial
something
feeling.
wrong? But I feel like with us, it's just kind of like,
A lot of
yeah,
them
you
have
can
that
date
mindset
whatever.
because their parents teach them that. It's like you better not bring no home no white man, or you better not bring no home no white girl. Like that's something that's
Yeah.
instilled, but we're not instilled as that whatsoever. And I think that's a positive thing. I think it's good, but at the same time, it's like I don't know, how do we just want to go about things in a healthy way. Like if we want to build like a community and a culture for ourselves, we're gonna have to go about things in a healthy way. Where I don't think we should like
Or like
exclude.
George
If
or
people, yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
like George said, like I think it does have to happen organically, but I do
Hmm.
believe with social media, we're in like a spot that we've never been in before, where we can connect with people just like us. And I feel like we
Hmm.
can we can create environments where people who are, I'm just gonna use mulatto because that's where we
Hmm.
are, right? So
Hmm.
like we can create environments where we can actually meet each other. And like,
Hmm.
like let's say for example, like meetups, right? Like, oh, let's choose Las
Yeah,
Vegas this year.
that's what we
Once a year
need.
we meet up and have like a little
That'd be
convention,
amazing.
and people
Oh,
could
that would
just
be
meet.
amazing.
Yeah, like people could just meet organically. We could talk about issues, and then if someone meets someone, they like them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I
Like,
love that. That'd be a
yeah,
beautiful thing. I do want to do some meetups. I'm totally down for some meetups wherever in Vegas or Miami or wherever we
yeah,
can be.
like
Meet up, have fun and just connect. I want it to be. I think it should be organic yet intentional. You know what I'm saying? Because if people who,
right.
I don't think that this is for people who actually do want to date other biracial people. And we got to get rid of the programming of like we got to see ourselves as like it's an option. Because so
Well,
many
we got to
people are like,
see ourselves as a people. You know?
yeah, we have to see ourselves as a people and that it's an option, because so
Yeah,
many biracial people, it's like, how I want to talk about this too, how the whole, okay, you have to pick a side thing. It's like you have to pick either white or black. Like,
yeah. I'm
because
done with that.
yeah, I
I'm
hate
done
that
with
too.
that.
I hate that too. I'm totally over that. But growing up, that was the mindset. It's like you can't be both. You have to be one or the other, right? Because the one drop rule, and how white and black people have such or have been there's been such high racial tension between them because of the history, and it's like they're at war with each other. So it's like you can't be just both. You have to be our side or their side. Like it's us versus them, and that affects our dating life. It's like, oh, if
Mhm.
you pick a black person, you're choosing us. You're black like us. But if you're choosing a white, have you noticed that? Even like with Doja Cat, like it's like she got a lot of backlash if she wanted to date a white person because it's like, oh, you're choosing their side. So it's like that
Mhm.
whole pick a side affects our dating life as well. So it's like, but I just wanted to see, hey, we got to get rid of that pick a side nonsense and just say, hey, we're going to choose us. We're going to choose ourselves. At the end of the day, we're going to see ourselves as our own beings and not just half of this person and half of this person, but see ourselves as our own people. And that's it, right? And then you
But
can
did you see
see,
how what happened on Radical's channel? Like how upset people,
yeah,
like the
my
tension was
bad.
crazy, right? Like, I'm like, what the hell's
Yes.
going on?
No, we don't. I don't care. Like people can think what they want. This is out of self love. It's not out of hate for nobody. People like you just want to get away from your blackness. You hate it.
Yeah, right.
I'm just like roll my eyes at that because it's like no, this is out of self love. I think that it's so important to have a community of people you relate to. I think that's very important because in the black community they can't really relate to a lot of our experience, and that's okay. We're different, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being different. Just because we're different doesn't mean we're against each other. Like we could be with
Right.
each other. We could have that unity. We could have that positive relationship with other communities and still have our own. It's not dividing the black community. It's not trying to take away from their numbers and all that stuff. It's just about us trying to build something for ourselves. Like there's nothing wrong with us wanting to build. Everybody else builds communities and stuff around their people, and I think we should be able to do the same thing. But I wanted to
Yeah.
address this. He said all Americans share the exact same culture without distinction of color. Unlike Hispanics, who are a conglomerate of three races, share the same identity. 2002, black and whites in USA share. I think that's totally wrong. Have you been in a white community versus a black community? It's a totally different culture. This is a multicultural nation. It's not, we all don't share the same culture. Like we share the same language and what with capitalism, like we all live under capitalism, but I think people live completely different lifestyles. So
Yeah, like does that dude travel? Because like that doesn't make any sense.
I
Even
understand.
like the cultures, even in the South and even up there in, I guess, quote unquote Yankee land, they're very different. Then even
Oh
West
yeah.
Coast
Very
quote unquote
different.
culture
Like
is
I
also pretty
lived
different too. I mean, like I've
yes.
already been up to like 33 states, and just about every state is like its own different unique world. So I
It's
don't
so
buy
different,
that.
and based on region too, because the United States is a big place. Like the Pacific Northwest is much different than the South. Like it's going to be completely different. There's completely different laws, state to state, and there's just
Right.
different things that go on. It's a lot different. We all don't share the same culture in America. It's a
We're also
huge
different, like genetically too. Like I've actually seen a
yeah.
study where they were like a lot of Black Americans in the North have a lot more European ancestry than the ones in the South, and I'm gonna say that's a
Hmm.
fact because like over
Hmm.
here, the only people I see that's like really like darker complexion usually are from the Caribbean. But then when I went down
Hmm.
south, when I moved to like Florida, I couldn't like I was meeting people that like looked to me like I was like, oh, you might be Jamaican or Haitian, and they're like, no, I'm Black American. I'm like, wait, what? Like, because like
Hmm.
in the North, I don't see like it's more like we're more like lighter like more of like
Hmm.
a brown color, but I know it's the South, you might get darker, right? But I was just running
Hmm.
into people that looked like they could be from the Caribbean, but they were not. And then you got like the
Right.
Gullah Geechee. So that person that said it's the same is not true at all. Cause you got like
That's not
almost like
true.
three types of Black Americans, right? You got the Gullah Geechee who have like a real high African percentage. They like, almost non-mixed at all. Then you have like the general Black population. And then you also have people like the Louisiana Creoles. You know what I mean? So like it's very diverse.
Very diverse. Like America culturally, genetically, it's very, very, very diverse country. Very
Oh,
much
by
so.
the way, Mr. Anthony, that's actually my specific mix, Louis Creole.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah,
actually, yep, my strong lineage
that's
right there.
Creole.
That's cool.
Shout out to the Creoles. But let me talk about this
Shout out to
article.
Hazel too. I didn't like how Maria came at her. It gave me a real salty. I don't even know that woman, but I did not like that. Yeah,
Oh my God. Let's not even start with her.
I won't.
Oh
It just
my God.
really irked me. I'm like, yo, I don't know.
But
But
let's
yeah,
talk about biracial dating in a monoracial culture. So one expert explores the experience of biracial individuals. I feel like this is kind of something we know. So it says, I've never seen this film, but example of a Stevie Wonder song talking about jungle fever. My father, African American, would burst. He's danced around my white mother, teasingly highlighting. Look, this is what we were saying: the stark difference in their cultural backgrounds. You see how they have different cultures. I think culture is very important. We often hear about the challenge of interracial couples from a binary cultural narrative. It is questions that pose to the white partners who suddenly found themselves dating a non-white partner. How do your white family react when you knew you were dating a black chick? How have you been attracted to this person? Disease, whatever, yeah. Alternatively, these are historical laden themes that arise in the person of color decides to date outside of the tribe. By taking up a Caucasian partner, the person of color often faces real or internalized accusations of betraying one's people, selling out, or serving as an object of fantasy. Yep, that's facts. So, but rarely do we ever hear about the experience of biracial individuals who face when diving into the dating world, the romantic stories of people who don't quite identify with black and white binary that dominates the American narrative often goes unrepresented. Yep. This is why I have an eager sit down with Alexander P. Jamali, a Berkeley-based psychotherapist who specializes in working with multi-ethnic individuals who are navigating romantic relationships. Through her work, Jamali has discovered biracial people have a unique lens that they bring to the dating world, which can be both a blessing and a curse into a relationship with white partners. It's always about people center whiteness too much. Like all these things I found, it's always like about white people. Like I don't know. Anyways, a lot of early dynamics can get stirred up in relationships and cause some hiccups, places where they could get stuck. Taking in social cultural dynamics and come up with mixed race experience into the equation adds a deeper level of understanding to the work. People are biracial and have a white parent don't have a us and them dynamic. This is facts. This is facts. You know how white people they have like a us, white and black people there's a us versus them dynamic. We don't really have that because we were part of both communities and both cultures. So how is it? You can if you like because I've been pro black too, and I was like, yeah, fuck you, like I've been there. That's wrong, that was like, yeah, I've been there. Yeah,
we have to address that too.
we're gonna address that very much.
Yeah.
Which
I don't think you know my story, Anthony.
okay.
You do, but
I heard they say a second, but all that live, you were like, I had a background, but I was like, I'm not gonna ask. I don't know these things.
Like 1%, 99% of Irish people become pro black. Georgia's like 1%. It's like the only one, but anyways, this adds a further layer of nuance and complexity to differences. Racial splitting is often unconscious. It happens outside of our awareness. A white person raised in a dominantly white space may see an Asian individual in some unconscious way, but they relate to that person as not me. Or alternatively, like African or American person who's raised identified strongly as black, being able to dominant white culture and the parents from an old culture act of splitting others like me or different than me, these racial others is much more complex. In the US, where the conversations on race are often split up into black and white, us versus them, me or not them, biracial individuals who straddle the line between the dominant and minority cultures often lack a consistent place to land. Thus, we play referee when it comes to issues of race. Isn't that facts? Isn't that freaking facts? That's a fact right
Yep.
there. We often play referee and actually want to keep the peace and actually be like, hey, like that's the facts. This could be particularly confusing in interracial relationships where the partner is white and other is biracial. I really feel strongly that it's imperative to help white partners. It's always about white partner. I don't understand, but to talk about issues of differences, not just the person of color. But I feel like this applies on both sides, not just white partners, but also if you're in a biracial person, you're dating a black partner, this also applies to that too, or whatever other person. Talk about issues of differences, just put the person of color in relationship, the person, and not just put it on the person of color in the relationship. The mixed person who identifies as a POC can feel a push and pull. On one hand, wanting to talk to me about this, honor the different ways that I've navigated my identity. At the same time, having a real fine line. Don't talk about me. Don't tokenize me. Don't focus on me too much. See me entirely. I think those dynamics are really present in mixed race relationships where one partner is white and the other is not. This needs to be responded with care and the confusion that many monoracial parents have when raising mixed race children often adds a layer of complexity that shows up in romantic attachments. Jamal often sees her multiracial individual, mixed race individuals do not necessarily have their experience mirrored. This right here in their family, origin, or peer group that comes into question. Do you see me? How do you see me? This hurts. Like, honestly, this right here is so triggering because it's true. Because it's like, I can't even really talk to nobody because nobody's really experiencing what I'm experiencing and nobody's really going to relate. And most people don't really care about issues that they don't really relate to or doesn't affect them, right? So it hurts. It hurts not really able to have. That's why these communities are so important. You guys have no idea how much pain I felt over nobody really caring to actually talk to me about these issues that I face that, they're kind of just dismissing it and it's like, whatever, you're just whatever. But yeah, how we get dismissed and shut down because, nobody could really, you don't see me. I feel like you're not fully seeing me. Anyways, Jamel often
I see what you're saying.
yeah, it hurts. So Jamel often notices that the dynamic being stirred up in multi-ethnic clients who seek therapy, hoping to find a way to feel in ease in the world, not only being in the existence, but a sense of the non-binary experience. While being multiracial in America is certainly not a new ability to desire to identify as such, to step outside the binary stereotypes of racial categorization is more recent. According to the new research, the share of multiracial babies has risen from 1% we were at 1%, damn, in the 1970s to 10% in 2013. So this article's from like 2016. So this is kind of old a little bit. So with the interracial marriage also on the rise, the demographic expert, is not quick. So anyway, so the most important thing I got from that was like the racial splitting, like how we date other people. We don't really see them as, oh, these are people or not. We could see ourselves in whoever. We don't really have this. We don't have like a strong racial identity like that. We
Yeah.
really don't feel like, oh yeah, this. We kind of just see everybody as humans, basically. What do y'all think about that? Oh, am I breaking up?
No,
You
no, I
sounded
can hear you
good.
just fine though. I was just handing the mic over to Mr. Anthony before I make my response.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, like I was saying before, like I feel like yeah, we don't see each other as like a people yet. Like we are kind of caught in the middle, right? Like cuz it's true. You have one side you have black people and then one side you have white people and it's like and then of course you got people in the middle, but it's like it's different with Latinos because they can like I say this all the time. They can kind of hide behind the banner of Latino. And they know I feel like a lot of them know this, right? Like they can be black, mulatto, whatever, but they can easily just hide and say, I'm just Latino and not have to deal with the whole racial problem. But if you're not from Latin America, you can't do that. You have to like, okay, I gotta pick a side. And for the most part, I feel like a lot of people choose black, but then if they choose quote unquote white, they'll just say, "Okay, I'm biracial." That's what I've seen like growing up. Like I said, every time I heard someone say I'm
Wow.
biracial, I always took it as like, oh, you don't want to be black. Like we get like brainwashed to say that, right? Like,
It's brainwashing,
oh,
yeah.
you just don't want to be black. But then
Yep.
we don't realize, hopefully, some people realize, but you don't realize that, people can say that you're black, like other black people, but they know they're not being honest with you. You know what I mean? Like they don't really see you as black. That's just a fact. Like I remember I went to Umar Johnson. He came to Connecticut one time, right? I went up in there. I was like, I was gonna go by myself because I don't know nobody who's into that type of stuff. So one of my boys, he's black on both sides, right? So he's like, I'm like, yo, come with me. And like, he's like, all right, whatever. I was like, it's free. I'm gonna pay for you, right? So we go up in there. I'm like the only, mixed dude there, right? But I noticed I got a lot of like looks, almost like, are you black kind of thing. Why, like, it's like I noticed it, like, while my boy is like, he'll get a lot more love and he knows nothing about any of the black conscious stuff. And I'm like, damn. So it's like, you don't even, he could just wake up tomorrow and just all of a sudden be pro black and get a lot of love just for being dark skinned. But I can know all this knowledge. I can know what happened to the community, all this stuff, but they won't ever get past the fact that you're mixed. You know what I mean? And if you ever get people upset, they're gonna make sure to tell you. So that's one of the times where I noticed, I'm like, damn, like, you know what I mean? It's you know what I mean? I don't know. It's a lot. It's a
I
lot.
totally relate to that. No, I totally relate to. I think we get gaslight a lot too because I had somebody tell me, it's problematic when biracial people don't participate in blackness. That's what he told me. But I'm like, yo, we all have. Like we've learned the history, we know the knowledge, we know knowledge of self, we know all of everything, we know all of it, and we still don't get looked at the same, obviously, because we're not the same, and it's okay to accept that we're not the same. There's nothing wrong about that. So yep. Oh, hey, Radical, what up, brother? So it's okay to accept that we're not the same. And it's painful because growing up, like, most of us do identify as black, and then we try to go hard for the black community, and then we get looked at like, you're not really one of us. And how that's a super painful experience. It really is, like, to kind of be, it's kind of like a sense of rejection. Oh, I'm gonna try to bring you up in a minute, Jose. Hold on, I didn't know you were back there. Okay. But have that sense of rejection. But I think it's a positive thing. I think anything negative be turned positive. I think it's a good thing that we actually do really need our own community and build something for ourselves where we're included and we're not, like, I was listening to somebody say, to be like fully accepted without question is like a privilege. But we don't really have that privilege to be fully accepted anywhere without question, just because of who we are. And we want to build a community that's going to fully accept us and not question us and be like, so that's something that's very important. We got the
You
Ku
got the
Klux Klan
KKK.
Yeah.
block.
Well, well, like, more
Block.
importantly, it's going to take empathy, compassion, and solid understanding to move beyond suspicion and fear and all the turmoil that comes along with racial matters. But then
Hmm.
something like that's going to have to be reciprocated on both sides. But
Hmm.
are they willing to do that for us as much as we're willing to do that for them? Because a lot of us, like I've said before a million times, it's we have this tendency to want to become the token mouthpiece for others before we can even become something like that of ourselves. But then again, like, everything has to be reciprocal. But if it's not there, then it's basically like my car without its engine.
That's big facts. It's all about being reciprocated, right? It's so true. It's all about it being like any relationship, no matter what. It always should be. I look out for you, you look out for me. It's not just a one sided thing, or that's toxic. That's not something that's only one beneficial for one party, but it's not beneficial for it's like that's never gonna work. It's just not. It should be a win win situation. That's kind of like what's so important.
Yeah, because it seems like
Exactly
with us,
how,
we have to almost like be the shadow of Black America,
Yeah.
right? Like we're in the shadow. Like they can throw
Yeah.
us out when they need us, but then they can roll us back in. Like when it's like,
yeah.
we got to get off
So
that.
I wanted to tell
Yeah.
you something really quickly, like under like 1 minute, Mr. Anthony, since you're probably not familiar at all with my story.
Okay.
So, not even that long ago, I was a white nationalist, basically, a neo Nazi, by the way. I
He was
had
so
taken
white.
my whiteness that far to where I took things that far. So, as
Yeah.
you know,
He
how
was the
Mulata
opposite.
said earlier, though, about how much of us actually become pro black, but let's
Yeah.
just say I was one of those few that actually became very pro white instead. So, I took it to a whole different level during that time. But ultimately, it all happened for a reason because it all brought us to where we are today.
Mm-hmm. It's like we go to the extremes trying to feel a sense of acceptance, but it's like that's not gonna work. You know, it's
Hmm.
just not gonna work. But
Kind of like during your Hotep days too,
yeah,
Magic.
I was in my Hotep days deep. I,
Did you get into the hotep like when you
yes,
got to
I did the
Atlanta, or
knowledge
was
of
you?
self, and the power of melanin, and the ankh and everything. I got into all of that.
Let me ask
Yep.
you, Georgia, when you were doing that, were you like did you have a community like did you like because like you said you're doing the opposite, like did they treat you kind of like okay you're white but you're not really white?
Of course, you're also going to get treated the same way as if you were deep into the pro black Hotep stuff. You're going to actually have people who are going to be very two faced behind your back. You're going to have people who are going to flat out say, "Well, you're not really one of us." It's basically the same dynamic, and even sometimes even worse because these people are also going to like call you slurs too behind your back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You know what's funny? Like, I've been in situations where like I was, working with white men, right? And it's funny because once they find out what I am, it's almost like it's like they find out like that it's like they want to hang out with you, but they're not sure. It's like almost like they're scared. Like it's really weird. Like I've been in situations where like because I drive trucks, so sometimes we have like a helper. Like when I used to deliver food, and like I can go with you can have anybody in these warehouses. You can have some guy who's hood as hell, some guy who's crazy, guys from the sticks, some white, whatever. And like I would go with certain people and like they'll talk to me, realize like, I'll tell them what I am. And it's like they're almost like trying to figure me out. Like, are you on the black side? Are you on the white side? Like I almost want to invite you to hang out, but I don't know. It's a weird like dynamic, that I've been through.
It is weird. It is because it's what they expect. It's like each side expects us to throw the other side under the bus, basically. You notice that?
Yeah.
Like, and it's weird. I don't like that. I don't like that. Hey, Don. I don't like that at all. That's why I'm like, I'm trying to get away from all that, like the racial binary system. It's like white versus. I'm trying to get away from all that. It affects our dating life. Like I said, let's go back to the dating life topic. So this is a stat right here that says it says that two or more races. This is our population right here, and this was in 2021, and this is how many of us are married. So 42% of us are married, and I think I think that's and this is the white. This is everybody else. I think it's kind of average mostly. I think marriages in America have taken a hit. Like how
Yeah.
a lot of factors go into that, but it definitely affects us too. And for me, okay, so are you guys like? I know I'm married. I I think, but you know what I noticed with a lot of biracial men, I think a lot of them are like very marriage minded,
Right.
because it's like we do want to have a sense of like our own family, that we
Hmm.
could. So yeah, I think that's good. I think that's a positive.
No, it's true. I know a lot of people who are like, biracial who are married. Like I don't really see them so much as like I don't know, like in these streets, right? Like as they say, like, a lot
Facts.
of it's true. It's true.
And I think that that's the reason for that. It's like your own family. Like if we create a family, because that's something like when you create a own family versus a family you're born into, you may not felt accepted or whatever. But within your own family, it's going to be a different dynamic. It's something that's where you're always going to feel accepted at. So I do think that it's very important. That I think that's a positive thing. I think that's something good we got going for ourselves. That we're pretty marriage minded and we do value our families very much. I think biracial men, from all of them I've seen, have been really good fathers and good husbands, and I think that's a really beautiful thing to see.
No, that's really true. That's why when
Hmm.
I seen I think I seen one of your streams and you were talking to I don't remember who you were talking to, but you were saying that we didn't have nothing to offer. Didn't you? You said something like that, like we don't have nothing to offer as a community or something like that. It was like I don't know, one of these Latino posts or something. But I
Hmm.
think we do definitely have stuff to offer because
We
if you
do.
really think about it, like as far as like the mulatto population, we're probably definitely in the millions. The thing about it is we just don't.
Or
Yeah, we just
we
don't
need
know.
to
So
collectivize. All we need to do is start collectivizing and being like, hey, this is our
yeah,
group. We're so individual. America's a very individualistic, especially white America, that it's very individualistic culture. So it's like if we start collectivizing and seeing ourselves as people and start moving as one, I think we have to unite ourselves first and foremost, right? We got to unite.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we're
And
very
it's
much
like
divided and fractured. Hmm.
and something that I noticed, like a lot of people who are like, mulatto, like they usually come from middle class homes. That's something that I've noticed. Like, because usually sometimes it could be a black man.
Ooh,
He's like in a middle class, upper status. He'll, get, the little stereotype, right? Get with a white woman, and they're usually in a middle class home. So that's why I said I feel like we do definitely have a lot to offer. Like if we were trying to unify, because
that's good.
we do have wealth, and some of
Hmm.
us might be getting a lot of that wealth transfers. You know what I mean? So that
So,
we definitely have a lot
mhm.
to offer.
So we're like the second wealthiest, like on income level, because I did a live stream about that, about how like biracial people can compete. So when it came to income, we were like second. Hi, Jose. But yeah, like I said, we're like the second. It said
Good
Latino
evening.
people.
Good
Hi,
evening,
Jose.
everybody.
Hey, what's
Hey.
up?
Actually,
Hey,
Hold up. What'd you say? I can't
no,
hear
I
you.
was saying that this is a very interesting topic. What's being discussed? Part of it has individuals, community. Can you
Hmm.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay,
You hear us?
that
Yeah.
there's certain members of the community, that certain members of the,
Are you breaking up a little bit?
you have certain individuals that might
Hold up. You breaking
part
up
of
a
the
little bit.
reason why they don't. Yeah,
Hold
I
up.
don't.
Hold up.
My,
Jose, I'm gonna remove you and then come back. Okay? Because you're kind of breaking up a little bit. Hold on.
can anyone hear?
You're just breaking up a little bit. That's all.
Got that Boost Mobile.
You can join in with another device.
Yeah, I'm gonna remove you and then come back on another device and we'll see if you can hear me better. Okay? Because I do want to hear your input. Want to? All right. I'm gonna remove you and he's gonna come back. But let's get into the programming aspect of it. Let's get into that. I think
Yeah, let's
that's
get
a
into that.
major factor because okay, we addressed the proximity. Like if you really did have, because there's a lot of us out there, you really did have the intentions. I think you really could do make it happen. And we address. We do have a lot to be. You're right. I was wrong. Maybe I misspoke. I'm looking at us like I think where we're heading. I think we do have a lot to offer if we do actually come together and collectivize. I do think we have a lot to offer. I actually agree with you. And okay, let's talk about the programming. That there is a programming in place that keeps us apart, because let's talk about it. So like you said, most biracial people, the one drop rule, identify as black. So most of them are going to date black. And in the black community, how light skinned men are more put on light skinned women are more put on a pedestal, and then the light skinned men, including biracial men,
Yep.
are you know effeminate. Like they call they try to effeminize you and try to destroy your image within the black community. And a lot of biracial women who grew up in the black community probably internalized those type of programmings, like, oh, these light skinned men are just pretty boys, they just oh they soft, I can't do no. There's a lot of biracial women probably internalize that, and they don't want to date another biracial person. So what do y'all think about that?
I am a little skeptical about that. It's just because since we are still like an unrecognized group, there's not really a whole lot of stats out there about us in that department of feminizing or emasculating or any stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there hasn't really been enough like concrete, like peer reviewed studies in that respect. So I
No,
don't really buy that
there's
at the
no
moment.
studies on it, but this is like something that is
It
very
it
common
sounds
in the black community.
it is, but it's I mean when those are trying to like apply that to us, so it just seems like they're basing that on an anecdotal case by case.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
just what that really boils down to. Whereas some, like, yeah, because I've heard that before about how I guess maybe like a biracial woman will feel that, well, her own man has just been emasculated and whatever, though. But then again, we're so unrecognized and unnoticed to where there's not a whole lot of peer reviewed studies in that respect. So That I don't buy. But yes, the part where we're so black identifying because again, we're basically three times more likely to go down that route. But as far as us being emasculated or whatever, that there's
Oh no, I
not
don't
enough
think you
data
guys
on that.
are. No, 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 no. I'm not saying you guys are demand. It's just saying that it's like they try to ruin your image in within
Yeah.
the black community. It's like it's just a narrative. I don't think it's actually happening, but it's just a narrative that people try to push onto light skinned men in the black community. So
And they still do it to this day. You could
they
see it
still
on
do it to this day.
Instagram where they'll show like how light skins dunk the basketball versus like stuff like that. It's just like,
Yeah,
and it's just like, okay, but then it's like if we start snapping back at you, then all of a sudden you're gonna say, oh, we're racist now. Like,
exactly. But that's racism in itself too. Because if we're that's racism. I think
yeah, and if you look
colorism
at the
is
comments, you should
actually
like they're like, yeah,
racism. Yeah, it
they'd be like,
is.
what am I gonna do with a light skinned dude? Like they're just, you know what I mean? Like I'm
I
like,
see
okay,
that a lot. And I see that from women too, talking about, oh no, I can't do no light skinned man. I've heard that a lot. When I was in Atlanta. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Like, oh no, no, not no light skinned man. Like I've heard of. It's very, very, very common thing. So, I only want a chocolate man. Like that's something that's very common. So I'm thinking, if you're a biracial person living in the black community, you're gonna internalize a lot of these negative programmings, and because we don't even see ourselves as like, oh, these are our men or these are our women. Usually, most of the time,
yeah, that's what I was saying
we
in the
don't
other
see
post, and
ourselves like that.
that guy got offended, I think, by that, but.
Uh huh.
That's what I was saying. And the other thing, yeah, we don't see each other as like, okay, this is our, like you would say this is my man, and we would say this is our woman. We don't even think like
We
that.
don't even think like that. Exactly. We don't whatsoever. I think that's changing though a little bit because I think because you know how most men of all races are very like territorial over their women, right?
Hmm.
So somebody told me, I think I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Like, would you? I don't know because, like I said, I don't know how men. I'm not a man. That's the kind of what men do. They kind of try to gatekeep their women. But
I'm
what
gonna
do you
be
guys
honest,
feel?
like me growing up, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I
we
didn't
don't really.
I didn't
Yeah,
see men like do that. Like I had, most of my friends were like black or Puerto Rican, right? Like I had a
yeah.
couple, others like different Latino groups or whatever. But like I'd never seen like no, like even one time, like I knew a Mexican girl that like I was hanging out with, and like they were even like really cool with me. So like, you know, like I was really cool with her brother and everything. So I didn't see that in here in Connecticut, but it could be
Well,
different
I
other
see
places.
it mostly online because like, oh, even right now, there's a picture of like LeBron James with a white woman versus his wife, and then people are like, oh, people are kind of trying to deter him from that because it's like I said, I did a community post talking about self hate. Like so many people view it. I think it's only because I don't hear it from other communities. Like so many people in the black community view like dating out as like self hate, and you must hate yourself. You help in white supremacy. How can you date your? There's so much shame around dating
Yeah.
somebody who's especially white. I don't think there's a lot of shame around dating like an Asian person or a Latino person or something like that. But since there's a negative history between white and black people, there's a lot of shame in making sure that we don't want to like breed out our blackness with white people, and there's like a lot of shame,
Well,
and
yeah,
that's
especially in the pro-black community, because they'll look at us and say, okay,
oof,
if I
yeah,
if I date you, my kid is not still not gonna really be black, and I
yeah,
gotta,
and
know what
then
I
my
mean?
grandkid could possibly be a white kid, and they would not want that, so it's like there's a lot of making sure trying to
Well,
trying
the
that,
racial thing
the
here is
dating
very
tactic.
sensitive.
Making
Hmm.
sure that the mindset is that I don't really want to get diluted out of existence.
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
mindset for sure.
Diluting the D word is what
Hmm.
comes into the mind.
Exactly, and we don't really have that mindset because it's hard because by like as it stands right now, I do think like being a biracial, mulatto person, it's like a one generational thing, right? It's like, two people of different races. There is a lot of MGMs though.
I honestly consider MGM still mulatto, but it
Yeah,
depends
they
on
are.
yeah, it
They are.
depends on
It's
their
a lot of
mix.
Like
MGMs.
if you know want to know something though,
I've never seen
um
MGM people until I came to the
Mr. Anthony, both my parents look the way I do
Okay.
because they got with people who were like themselves for the past 80 years.
Yeah, like you're MGM George. Like I've never really seen that in real life, but that's actually a real thing of like mixed people. That's nothing new, really, But I do think it's like just a lot of us, like, I think you're a first generational biracial person, right, Anthony? Like me.
Yes, 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 yes.
So
Yeah,
a lot
like
of us, like first gen, we're having a totally different experience, and we're realizing, hey, we really do need our own community. Versus in the past, it was like, okay, we'll just, we'll be amongst the black community. But now the black community is like, we want to protect we want to gatekeep our race, and
Well,
if
yeah, exactly. Everybody's trying to keep their group now, right? And we noticed that this whole American experiment is pretty much failed. It didn't work, especially
Mhm.
now that more people are coming from other countries, and they're like, "Well, I'm not getting on board none of that shit. Like, I'm not gonna hold everybody's hand. I'm getting my money and taking it back to my country." Like, that's basically what we're seeing. So we're kind of left like, we don't want to get with you because you're too light. You have too much European ancestry. And it doesn't matter if you're MGM or first gen, they don't give a shit about none of that. They just look at your skin and it's like, no. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay. And then, like I
Mhm.
said, if we start doing that, you know,
That's probably from the male perspective, because like this comment said, from the women perspective, a lot of women in the black community are fetishized for having light skin. You know how it's like a fetishization, so they try to, they'll, like that post you said was on point about how, like, a person who's pulled back, they'll claim an attractive light skinned mixed women as
well,
black.
yes, because if you see Michi X,
Yeah.
if you see Mia X, she's like half Polish. But I was thinking, I was like, I honestly feel like the men, when it comes to the men, they'll
No,
consider
they
them
won't.
black because they want
Mhm.
to have sex with them. And then the women will
Exactly.
almost consider them black because it's almost like they want to put them out in the forefront and say, look, she's being ghetto. I'm not like that, so look at me. That's kind of how I
Mhm.
feel. Like she gets to be
Mhm.
the sacrificial lamb to put herself out there and be ratchet and ghetto and swear. So other women that aren't mixed can say, see, that we're not all like that. Look at her. She's light and mixed and she's, ghetto, but they know that she's not, even sometimes I've heard her say like, oh, I'm black. I mean, I'm white too. Like she's like, I'm like, like, come on. Like, I
Oh,
don't know.
Jose. It says, is there a general definition of what is mulatto? Yeah, somebody who's like white and black.
I mean, like in
Oh,
a historical sense, Jose, it technically meant somebody like W.E.B. Du Bois or Frederick Douglass, in which you have one white parent and one black parent. But we already know definitions and meanings change because
yes.
even like a country such as northern Brazil is considered to be mulatto territory, even though those people have parents who look like them. Like in my
Mhm.
case, both my parents actually look like me, but
Mhm.
although from me and you, Magic or Anthony, like
Mhm.
our parentage may be different, but our worldly experience and our ability to understand just the nuances of the races we're a part of is still pretty much the same. Like, for instance, you can
Right.
understand probably white people, you can understand black people. There's just a nuance that we can actually understand.
Mhm.
And then in other departments, we of course still get like the what are you question because I've been getting that for as long as I've been around.
Yeah, me too.
Mhm.
And like I would say this, like my definition is somebody who's of African and European ancestry, and I don't think you have to necessarily have one parent and one. You know what I mean? Because like my kids, like I consider my kids ought to be mulatto, even though like my two youngest kids have a black mom, but they look just like me. They can't pass for black. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like
Mhm.
It,
more importantly though is that you have complete autonomy over your own identity. And it's not really society's job to define it for you.
right.
It's just you need to apply whatever nuance or wisdom and just experience that you've basically have, I guess you could say, have compartmentalized over however long you've been around and just go from there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
The reason why I raised the question because sometimes you have people who have different interpretations of a definition.
True.
So that's the reason. So that's the reason I raised the question. I'm just curious. Let's say I marry either an Afro American or say well I, sometimes I struggle with the term mulatto because for some people it's an offensive term, for others it's not, and
Mhm.
I'm trying not to be offensive.
So true.
Um,
Very true.
so
We need to
I'm
break.
just
We need to
curious.
break that though. I think we should break
Yeah,
that.
I think we should break that. I do feel like we should reclaim it. A lot of people don't want to because of like the history. Oh, it means you're a mule and you're a subhuman and you're this. But if you actually go back further, it comes from the Arab, because a lot of Arab people, they're the OG mixed people, the Arabs,
Hmm.
because they're close to Africa and Europe. So it's like they were mixing to create the Arab, who it comes from that. and it just means mixed, So it didn't start with the
Yeah,
Portuguese. It actually
I
goes back to
can I
technology.
can actually like give a little quick historical context on that. It was the Anglo elites who came in there and just degraded the term.
Yeah.
But centuries prior to the Anglo elites taking over, like somebody such as Juan de Pareja, who actually was what you would call a mulatto, was even like a slave under Diego Vasquez in Spain in the 1600s. Even
Hmm.
during that time, people who looked like him were referred to as a quote unquote morisco, which is still along the lines of being mulatto, but
Hmm.
it wasn't really in an Anglo sense. And it was very much acceptable. It wasn't really meant to be said in a degrading way, but when the Anglos kind of took over, then that's just when all of a sudden the word is getting painted in a bad light, which ultimately led to it putting a bad taste in people's mouths even today.
Yeah, and that's why I think it should change because everybody can use any term. Like there's people that say, "Oh, black is an offensive term," and like what is really white, right? But I feel like we have to play the game. And if we could use biracial as a general term or mix, but what does that really mean when you have someone who's biracial but they're Asian and I don't know Nigerian or Asian and white? Like that's not me.
Exactly.
You know what I
And
mean?
since you actually do live in a place which has like a large Caribbean population, even when I came over there to like the East Coast and I was really starting to get more exposed to even Caribbean culture, I've even realized that during that time that, oh, these people will actually take it personal if you even use the B word. They would just flat
Hmm.
out say, hey, I'm Cuban and end of story. Do not call me black. I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. Now this was
Yeah.
before I understood something like that. Is just because, like my mom, she was born and raised in Mississippi. She was a Mississippian throughout her elementary school years, which is like a very key part in the child's development. So even she was caught off guard by that, though, especially when she had been hearing the word black all of her life. And that was
Yeah.
all that she knew. So even for her, like when she first started dating like this Cuban man when she went to Cuba, she even noticed that, yeah, even for the Afro Cubans, she noticed that, hey, they would take it personal if you call them black because they see it too much in a colonial sense and they see it as a racial standard put in place by the Anglo elites, which is something that they don't want anything to do with. So after understanding that historical context behind just their reluctance to call themselves that, I get it now.
They wanted to build their own identity instead of
Yeah,
somebody else giving them their identity, basically.
exactly. So
That's what
just
we're
as
trying
much as
to
how we have some of our own people who don't
do.
like the M word, well, hey, you have many people within the Afro diasporas around the world, who don't like the B word. So
Hmm.
it goes either way.
Or
Well,
even the A word, African, right? They don't like to hear that.
Oh, that
well, I
too.
mean, excuse me. One thing to bear in mind that Caribbean Latinos are quite different, say, from the Latinos from Central or South America. Uh, First of all, our perspectives are different. Our own experiences are different. Are
Hmm.
different. So, at least as far as the Caribbean Latinos, like the Cubans, the Puerto Ricans, and the Dominicans, we tend more think of ourselves as an ethnic group, not whether we're white, black, or mestizo.
It's even like that too in Jamaica, like Jose, though, even though it's not exactly like a Latin country. Even when I was in Jamaica, they just said that, oh, I am Jamaican. End of story.
Yeah.
Okay, I just had
But
an
yes,
epiphany. I just had an epiphany. So, do y'all think race is a made up social construct, but ethnicity is what really is? Like your ethnic identity is more accurate than like your race per se. What y'all think?
it's not really a black or white issue because like race in itself has been socially constructed in many ways, especially um in an American sense. But since at the same time we can like take like a DNA test to pinpoint genetic markers that links us to all these different parts of the world, I can't exactly say it's 100% socially constructed just because of that. But at the same time, since race is configured differently in other countries, I would also have to say it is because from what I learned from this one guy is that somebody like myself would be considered white in some parts of Brazil just because of my fair skin or blue eyes. But also like Magic, that me and you would be considered white, and even in a place such as Ghana. And
Yeah,
same
we
with
would.
probably
It's
you, Mr. Anthony. So
Yeah.
the
fact.
racial configuration in that sense is different. But then at the same time, like there still are like traits that we may inherit, particular physical traits that we may inherit that is also rooted in whatever our racial ethnic background is. So such as like a person who are usually from East African, they tend to actually have a higher lung capacity, which is why they make excellent sprinters. And then a lot of West African tribes, they have little to no body fat, and they may actually have more muscle fiber, which makes them able to become a little bit more like physically robust. Or like a lot of people in like the native Eskimo tribes, their bodies were developed in a certain way for them to be able to adapt to a very cold, harshly bitter climate. So in that sense, we do have particular innate traits that do stem from whatever our background is in a racial ethnic sense. But then at the same time, there's so much data changing, and we're actually constantly evolving to where things are going to change, definitions will change, phenomenons will change on the basis of race and ethnicity, and also the configurations are also going to change as well. So it's somewhere in the middle as far as it being genetically and racially constructed.
Great points. I love you're very smart. You're very intelligent, Jose. I love learning from you. It was gonna change, but hey, future, thank you for coming up, girl. Thank you.
Hey,
And
Magic. How's
hey,
everyone on the panel?
Hey,
What's
glad
up?
Good
to
future.
meet you,
evening,
Magic. Though
future.
Hearing out the woman's
I'm
perspective.
George, or by the way, you called me Jose.
Hi, Jose. Hi,
But
Georgia.
hey,
Hi, Anthony.
hey,
Good
What's
evening.
up?
But
hey,
that's kind of I
future.
feel like that's kind of our job to make sure the changes of like what we view as race is different because like I said we live in a very binary system of white and black and this and that and all these boxes that it's like hey we're like in between. It's like we have to kind of expand people's horizon, especially in America where it's very like I said black and white and it's like very this or that and we're in between. It's like a this or that mindset and like this and that, you know, we have to have a this and that, like we have to expand like how we view things and actually change definitions to be more accurate so we could describe us and our full experience and not just have us leave out one part of our experience. You know, we want to be able to have an identity that expresses our full experience and our full, you know, in our true, all of our essence and truly our full being, right? We would just want to be expressed and be a full being and not just be half of a being and half of this and half of that, but just be a full whole human being, you know, and have an identity that expresses that.
And we
Oh,
got to get that self hate. We got to get that self hate out there too, because
hate.
like you brought up,
Oh, that's a good topic. Let's talk about that self hate.
because like
So,
you said a second ago, like what I see, and I forgot to mention it, like I did see a lot of like, you would see a lot of lighter skinned ambiguous women who would be classified as black. They would prefer like they would literally try to get the darkest man they can get.
mhm.
Like that's something that I have saw, and I think it comes from like wanting to fit in. So you want your children to come out with that brown complexion, so they don't get the
The
lashes, I
more
guess.
melanin, the more powerful. I've
Yeah,
heard that before. I've heard that narrative. You know, like the more melanin you have. So of course, you know, if you're light skinned, you'd want to go make like your child be. If you feel like more melanin is like a superpower, you'd want your child to be as melanated as possible. You know, you don't feel like so that's like the Hotep. That's like the Hotep realm. You know, like the whole.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I've seen that though, and it's like we gotta be careful too because we gotta make sure you know, because it's like the self-hate thing, right? Because I don't think that's like a narrative that kind of hurts us a little bit too, because it's like, you know, so many people think we're products of like fetishization, we're just products of self-hate, you know, our parents are race traders, and I don't think that's necessarily true most of the time. You know, I think people do come together organically, naturally. They just like each other and they come together. It's not like out of self-hate. That's kind of the case with my parents, but I do think that is an important aspect that people have to address. Like you don't like how you look, you don't like, you know, who you are, and you want to, you know, make sure your children are like different than you and you know don't have, that's something that does happen very much as well too. So it happens in our community a lot as well. And it's so I do think that we want to a lot of us, especially if you're pro-black, we want to it's with when it goes back to the whole pick a side thing where it's like oh, you want to date, you want to breed out this whiteness that was in you. Like, if you hate your white side, you're going to want to be with somebody who's black. So you breed out that whiteness, so your kids are not as white. You know what I'm saying? You kind of want to
Exactly.
distance yourself. So that's where it comes from. And
And if you think about it, if you don't want to make children that look like you already know that's self-hate right there. If you want your kids to come out look completely, if if you're mixed and you're like, I want my kids to be dark skinned and be chocolate, you hear people say this, I want a chocolate baby. And it's just
Mhm.
like, you already know that's self-hate.
No, I think
That's
I
hard though,
disagree with
because if
it.
you
No,
can't
I just
appreciate
think
like your
so.
own women though, then how are you ever going to get any kind of woman?
I
And how would your
disagree with
relationship
it.
be stable?
But I think
Exactly.
that, okay, when it comes to, I don't think a lot of people care too much, because when I never really cared about, like, oh, what are my kids gonna look like? It's more about like being with the best partner, and the intentions of being like, if somebody has those intentions, like, oh, I don't want my kid, that's
Let me
something.
ask you something. Since you was in Atlanta, did you make a lot of like women friends there?
I had some friends, yeah, I had a lot of friends, but I felt like I couldn't go deep with them about certain things, because it was like, I know they can't really relate to a lot of things. It's very
So did
personal.
nobody ask you like, oh, I wonder what your kids are gonna look like?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. When I got with my husband, that was a big, big, big topic. People were like, "Oh, he's gonna be white," because he
Yeah,
is.
right.
My sons are they all look different. Like, my daughter looks like me, my son looks white, and then my little boy, he looks Hispanic, because we come out any kind of way. Like, our kids, like, they don't really, like, that's the thing about being mixed. Like, your kids have so many different codes and DNAs. They're not all gonna look like you. So that's something that that's not, I don't know, my kids, one of them does, but two of them don't. So, and I kind of have to accept that that's okay. Like, our kids, like, that was kind of a shocker to me, because I never seen like too many other mixed people get together. So my
Well,
son, he
I
looks
asked that because in my I know like I grew up in like more of like a black community. It's like it was like mixed black and Puerto Rican, and I would say
Mhm.
literally everyone who's asked me or suggested like what my kid is gonna look like or made comments about complexion have all been black people. Nobody that
Yeah.
was white have ever said it.
That's
Nobody
something
that's
that, yeah,
Latino has
that
ever said
happened
it.
to me when I got pregnant. When I got pregnant, it was like, oh, this kid. They were like, oh, he's gonna be white. He's gonna look white, because my son, my husband's he's light skinned too, and that's what happened. My son is like very pale white, like, he's very white. He's white passing. Like, he don't really have no color to him whatsoever. He has like little freckles, and he got green hair, and he's very cute. But that's just, we come in a lot of different phenotypes. You know what I'm saying? Like, as like mixed people, and we come in a lot of different phenotypes as like black and white mixed people. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that we have to explore too, because we think there's like one version of us, but there's like so many different variations of like mulatto people, that, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, but let me let Future, I was rambling on, I want to hear about what Future, what do you got to say about this topic,
You
I
about
got
was
an
mixed
going to say that
espresso or something.
he said something interesting, that when people are like super light skinned and they always link up with like much darker people, and they're always saying stuff like, "Oh, I want my baby to be chocolate," or "I want my baby to be dark skinned." Sometimes I think that's because, like, in the black community, they're really mistreated. So they're always making fun of their complexion and calling them light brights and all this other stuff. And they feel like if my child comes out darker, they're not going to go through that. They'll be accepted. So
Mhm.
I do feel like it is a little bit of self-hate and not wanting to kind of
yeah.
like fight for your own identity. But yeah, I thought that was an
And then you hear that
important.
on both sides, though. It's like in the black community, you can't escape people hating on you for your skin color. Because I've heard dark skinned women say that, oh, I want to get with a white man so I can have a light skinned kid, because I don't want them to go through what I went through as a dark skinned person. But little does she know, if she does have that little light skinned kid, they're gonna get picked on. Like, it's like you can't escape that no matter what. There's gonna
Yeah,
be
Right.
somebody.
it's really selfish. That's what it is.
Yeah, there's gonna be somebody who's gonna make fun of you and hate you. They'll find something about you they don't like you. That's why it's like, us as a community, we were talking about this yesterday, how we really gotta have thick skin about stuff, but we can't really let that bother us. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
because like this world is not going to tiptoe around whatever your triggers or your
What?
trauma
Hmm.
is. You have to be
No.
But there's a
responsible for
term
your own
too.
triggers and traumas,
There's a
unfortunately.
term too for the people who are in the middle. The term is safe brown. So when they
Okay.
talk about colorism, they always talk about dark skinned people,
Right.
and they neglect the people who are in the middle. The people who are in the middle are called safe brown, but they
Mm.
don't talk about like super light skinned people or like albinos, and how they kind of have like an experience similar to,
Right.
dark skin colorism. They kind of have a similar experience where they're always ostracized or picked on, or a lot of comments made about their complexion. So safe brown is that term for those middle complexions.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's something.
like Future. Like, have you seen that movie Powder from back in the 90s?
No,
Yeah.
I need
Well,
to
it
get
was
caught
that
up on my
movie was
movie
about like
game.
an albino kid in Texas who was severely bullied because of his
Oh,
albinism.
yeah,
Powder.
I could see that. Powder. I think I remember it very, very, very vaguely. I've probably seen the title somewhere, but that sounds really interesting. I'm gonna check that out.
Do it though. It's gonna break your heart though.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely like they say colorism is all about dark skin. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, if you're a part of the Black community, you would know that super light skinned people, people who are nearly like they're not white passing, but they're almost white passing, people who are albinos, they also get picked
Very
on,
much.
ostracized,
In
It's on
bullied.
both
Africa,
Yeah.
sides.
some of them get killed.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
right.
like you talk about the ones in Africa
like
that get killed
albinos.
because they feel like they have yeah, I watched a
Magical
documentary about
powers.
that. I watched a documentary about that, about how the albinos they think they have like magical powers, yeah, and they get killed for their body parts and stuff like that, and they have to keep them safe, like protected in like a certain area so they don't, get killed by that's so crazy, right? Isn't that sad? Getting
That's
killed for your skin
crazy.
color. That's horrible. Hmm.
excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, see, in my case, I basically dated all over the spectrum. The first girl I dated was an African American. The next one was white. In fact, I was engaged to her. Unfortunately, we broke up. I dated a melanated Puerto Rican, a Mexican, and a couple of Dominican ladies. So I'm like all over the spectrum.
Same. Same.
You've tasted the rainbow. Okay.
I have,
But
I did. I never discriminated based on color or race or anything as well. I wasn't taught to do that. Nobody told me. Oh, I think that's most mixed people's experiences. We're not taught to. If somebody's attractive, they're attractive, right? So that's something that we
yeah,
kind of, you know,
I would say that too. Like, when you're mixed, I feel like you're much more tolerant of like every other different group.
yeah,
Whereas it seems like groups that are on towards the edges, they really like the monoracial people, they're
they
much less tolerant of the different
yeah,
types of phenotypes than we are.
true. That's so true. Because we could fit in a lot of different places too. How we're racially ambiguous and how we're like palatable, as they say, and you could like fit in like almost anywhere because it's like most of the world is brown. Like, you could go to freaking South America, or you could go to the Middle East, or you could go to wherever and kind of like fit in because we kind of got that same skin color almost to kind of blend in with a lot of different groups. But besides the ones that are like you know fully black or fully white, but most of the ones that are like kind of in between, we could kind of fit in. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of
Yeah,
interesting
and it
dynamic.
depends also like on the type of like because I would say like I don't know the golden goddess not the golden goddess. I'm thinking about the other person. The future is golden. So
Future's gold.
what is your like background? Like I'm assuming
So
you're
my
mixed.
mother's biracial and my
Okay.
my dad is like mixed, like his mom is biracial. So and then my mother's mother is kind of like mixed. So I just came
Okay.
out mixed, mixed looking, biracial looking.
I only asked because I was gonna say it even gets deeper. Like if you're that blackness in you is like an American black, it's even another like dynamic because someone like Obama is not really like us either. You know what I mean? Because his father's
Yeah, I
from
agree.
Kenya, and it's like he's probably a solid 50%. You know what I mean? Like he's probably
Right.
a solid 50. Even like someone like a Bob Marley, like if you see his mom, like but with us, it's like my father, he's not 100% African. So I'm gonna be leaning more towards European side. Same thing, like you know what I mean? So it's like we're like if you see like biracials that take DNA tests, you always see it's like they're probably around maybe between like 38 and maybe 45% African,
Right.
and that's if their dad is like or mom is like a black American because they have that European admixture that's still there too. So that's just another way to look at it too.
Yeah, it definitely like there, the American biracials now, I don't think we're at 50% anymore. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So everybody now,
Frederick
yeah,
Douglass is
there's so
probably
many,
50. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, and you even have people that are like 25, percent,
Yeah.
because sometimes like people who are mixed, like they'll just say they're black. So, when they have a child with a white person, they'll say, their child's biracial. And there really isn't any other term for it, but biracial. And most people are thinking, oh, well, that means 50-50, but their child may look, nearly fully white at that point. Um, so you have a lot of people like that too. Like now there's a lot of variation within the mixed race group, we got people on a lot of different ends of the spectrum in this group.
Yeah.
But
Yep, it's very diverse. It's
Yeah, and
very
like, and also like Mr. Anthony, even for some who may even be multi-gen, some may actually be like 45 or 49% European, but then in other times where you would not have suspected that a person even has any recent Afro and not recent, not Afro, but recent Euro ancestry. The range of Afro ancestry is usually between 55 to 62%.
yeah, it's really interesting to me because I
Yeah.
know that I have mulatto people. Like I did some genealogy research on my black side, and that the mulatto was on the census back in the day. So some of my ancestors from my black side were mulattoes, right?
Yeah, me
And
too.
I heard a story about one of my ancestors. They were born in, he was light skinned. He was born in slavery, but somehow he got his freedom. And in my grandfather, okay, here's a story about my grandfather. So he was very light skinned as well, right? And my mom said that he was a very successful person. He had it going on. And he got killed. And when I because they were in the South, they were in Georgia. So I initially thought, oh man, he must have got killed by a white person, racism or whatever. But come to find out, it was another black man. And she told me it was over jealous because that happens today. We see that happening today. A lot of jealousy in the black community, and people getting like take off. Like people just get killed because they're
right,
successful. And there's like that crabs and bucket mentality. So that's what happened to my grandfather back in the day. That he was very successful and he ended up getting killed. He had 8 kids at the time too. My mom was like, she watched him get killed basically, and he was a very light skinned black man, right? And I don't know if he was mixed though. I think he was. I'm not sure, but I just know he was light skinned. He was very light skinned. My mom said he's very light skinned, and my mom is very dark skinned because he got with a black woman, but my auntie, she was a very light skinned. So there's definitely some European mixture on my black side as well. So yeah.
Yeah, me too. And like
yeah,
even growing up, like just for on the man side, right? Like I can't tell you how many times I had a fight. Literally 90% of the people, 95 were black people. Like
Hmm.
people just try to pick on you for no reason, right? And it's just a non-stop thing. Like even in my school, like literally all the light skinned people could fight because we were always fighting.
That's so
Even
common. I
even
hear
even
that
the women.
you have to like, know how to fight. Yep.
Even now,
But
I be telling my wife, I'm like, yeah, look, I'm not. Like it might sound bad, but I'm like, I'm not putting my kids in a school that's predominantly black. I'm not doing that because
no,
I
I
know.
agree with that because you know how my kid came out. He's white passing, and I was like, I don't want to put my school because I know that he's gonna get picked on a lot. He's gonna be other. He's
Yeah,
gonna be singled out. He's gonna get treated different. He's gonna get treated like he's not one of us, and I don't want him to have that experience because he's very pale. He's very yeah. But let me talk to Irby. Irby says in a Black Community Magic they called Obama kids black. Do you agree with that? I think that he's multiracial. They're mixed as well too, right?
Yeah,
That's something
and
that's
I actually,
controversial about the 75%,
yeah, so I
line.
actually have kind of like even a question though on that related note. So everybody
I
Oh,
think
we're
your mic went out,
both
Georgia.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
that can you hear me now?
hmm
Yes.
Yes.
I said is that, so I actually have like a question. So like, what would you guys consider?
Oh no, you're breaking up.
I'm thinking
No.
that's my
Back
thing
to the
messing
Wi-Fi
up.
router.
All right. Okay, I know why I was, because I was having multiple tabs open. So how am I now?
Good, good.
You're good.
So I was saying is, so like, what would we all consider John Legend to be? Because he came out 64% African, 32% European, and 4% Native.
Mulatto.
Yeah, he's mulatto. I would say mulatto.
Mulatto.
Got it.
Wow.
I think
Even
what
else?
I think it would be like what it should be. It's kind of already like that, but I feel like if you're at least, you know, like if you're like 20, at least 25% African, if you go on the other side, like let's say you're a biracial person, black and white, and you have a kid with a white person, I would say that kid will still be mulatto. Or if you have a kid with a black person, it'll still be mulatto. But if they go the other way again, then those kids would probably be like, oh, like Obama's kids.
That's a good
You
point.
could
I
say,
think
yeah,
that's
they're black.
great for me. Yeah, that's a great point.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really like
Because
that.
look at like Drake's kid, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, I would still say that he's still mulatto, but
He
he's
looks
just on
like
the
my
whiter
son,
side.
Adonis. His
Yeah,
son
yeah,
Adonis.
yeah.
That's what
But
my son looks like
but if he
very
has a
light
kid
skin.
with a if he has a kid with a white woman, then the kids are white. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it takes like a few generations, right, to like kind of breed out
Yeah,
the
because like
mixedness, I guess, you know.
yeah, because like I said with like my kids, like they're not 75%, black. No, they're probably like 60 something percent, right? Because you got her admixture, then you got me, and then my oldest son, his mother's Puerto Rican, so I don't even know. He could be 40% African. I don't even know where that lies, but I just say they're all mulatto.
Well, I
You,
mean, okay. Well, again,
Oh, where
as
did
I know,
Cooper go? No, go ahead, Jose.
you know, like I said before, and I know that sound like a broken record, but when it comes to Latinos, I mean, the fact of the matter is, you have Latinos of different shades and hues and what have you. So there's no such thing as a typical Latino look. I mean, you can have Latinos that's just as dark as say as Blazing King. You can have Latinos that's just as light as Magic or even JoJo. So there's no such thing as as a typical looking Latino. And I had to chuckle when I heard someone who will be nameless talking about that someone did not look Hispanic.
Yeah, there's a broad variation in Hispanic.
And it's kind of the same with our community, the American biracial people who are come from like the Anglo realm or whatever. That's on our white side. It's kind of the same thing. There's a lot of different variations. I think that's any mixed group, right? Any group that's like has a lot of it's like there's gonna be a lot of different variations because there's a lot of So I think that applies to any different group. So it's
Well,
like
it's something that I've noticed that I was talking to Radical about, and I was like, I've noticed that people who don't really want no unity seem to always come from the mestizo Latino class, right? That's something that I've been noticing, and we've been able to have good conversations with people coming from like the Caribbean, like the Latino Caribbean, or even like Panamanians tend to be, not the same as like let's say Dominicans. They kind of like a little iffy, but I've noticed that people who don't want to see no type of unity or say things like you guys are trying to be Latinos or whatever or super sensitive usually are coming from the mestizo class, in my opinion.
oh, somebody left a good comment on my channel. They said that, like in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, those are more mulatto dominated cultures. But in like
Yeah.
more like but more like Central America. Let me go in the bathroom. My bad. My kid's screaming. But more in like different countries throughout like Central America, those are more like mestizo dominated countries and cultures that are like, they're not really dominated by mulattoes like in the Dominican Republic and stuff. So it's like there's a difference there. There's different countries in Latin America that are dominated by different mixed racial groups, right? So
yeah,
And
and
I'm
you
like,
also
oh, go
like
ahead.
even like in like countries like Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina, they don't really exactly see themselves as the same as like Mexicans and Central Americans. And if you were to actually call them any of that, they would probably take it as an insult because those start to be kind of more European like dominated Latin cultures because like much of like Argentina is actually like Italian along with other like
Hmm.
specific European groups. Same with even Uruguay, which is also like a predominantly like Italian like country, or at least where a lot of people have actually Italian origin or just other European origins specifically.
that's
Yeah,
interesting.
they're very I don't even think at some point they don't call it mestizo. So like if they're 50% indigenous and 50%, European white, it's mestizo. But I think once they mix with white again, it's called castizo. So a lot of the
Yes,
people in those
castizo.
countries are called, yeah, castizo. And they actually, I mean, in my perception, they actually look, like white Europeans. They don't look indigenous in any way anymore. So, and I think the one next to it, Paraguay the one that's almost 96% white
Uruguay.
European,
It's
or it's
Uruguay.
Uruguay that's
Uruguay.
96%. Yeah, there's like a very high percentage of European and indigenous, and there was a lot of black blood was considered uh, a
Passed
taint.
today. Yeah,
in that culture also. So they're coming from a different perspective, people who are mestizo, and they're coming from a Latin American perspective. Like we don't share the same perspective as that group for blackness, because also in the United States, there's a lot of accomplishments that black people have made in the United States that I can't say that people in Latin America have made, right? So they're going to have a different perception of blackness in their countries versus the perception that people who are white and black here have, you know? Like they're
definitely.
going to see blackness much more negative than we may see it. And we may be unaware of that when they come here, you know?
And yeah, I think it's about learning different cultures because even people within cultures, they're all gonna have different perspectives as well. But I do think that like cultures do have like a dominant perspective on things and how they view things. But there's always individuals of different cultures that view things. That's what there's always you know. So because
And
from
that's
what
the thing
I'm
about that
learning,
triracial thing. I just see the comment that says triracial. Like technically, most people who are black and white, that's black American and
multiracial,
white,
yeah,
we're
yeah,
triracial. Like I have
yeah,
literally native
native,
DNA.
yeah,
I have Filipino DNA. So
exactly.
like, I
Yeah,
mean,
same though, because like Mr. Anthony, like I actually have a great grandmother who was a purebred Choctaw like native from Hickory, Mississippi.
oh wow.
Same. I know I have some native
That's what's
DNA
up.
in us too. I know I do
But that's
too.
another thing. If that's another thing. Like, yeah, we a lot of us have native ancestry, and we get shamed for that too. That's a thing. Like, if you claim that, you hate your blackness. It's like
Yeah.
you're not allowed to
How
claim it.
how about this to make things even better? Why don't claim all of it? Because it's
Kind of
what you
I do. I mark it
intrinsically
off on the
are, and your
census.
ethnic background isn't something you can change. So I'm like, haters, why don't we just claim all of it?
I just wonder how they were able to push the narrative that it's being a hater if you claim both sides, you know? Because it doesn't make sense to me. Like there could have always been a name for us as mulatto or another name MGMs and biracials. But it's like if you try to claim mixed in any way, they try to make it seem like, somehow you hate being black and that's why you're trying to claim being mixed.
I
I
That's the
question.
narrative
That's a question.
nowadays.
That's a
Yeah.
great question. Honestly, that needs to be. Yeah, that's a great question because that affects us so deeply, and it scares us away from claiming our full identity because we don't want because we're not hateful. We're not hateful, truly.
Well,
Of course, it's gonna be.
in Mexico, I think the black Mexicans they fought, I think, to be recognized because they weren't. I don't think they weren't on a census or nothing like that. So now Mexico has black on the census, so they probably should have, like mulatto on the census because you're right. Like our identity gets completely erased.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, everywhere we go.
Yep. And most countries, most Latin countries, there's no negative connotation with mulatto, because it's just an identifier. It's not something that's like a slur, like here in America, it's like a slur that's like, oh, that means like you're it's like compared to the N word for us, basically. You know what I'm saying? It's not really identity, so it's just like it's that's such a good question. I'm gonna think about that. Like, how did people really accept this? Like, as this is what it is. Like, you're just really trying to get away from your blackness. Because you know what I think it is. Remember, I did that stream talking about like the Blue Vein Society and how they were trying to. At one point, they were trying to separate and have their own race, and they were like little like. It goes back to the brown. I think it comes from the brown paper bag test. It's like, oh, you have to be lighter than a brown paper bag in order to be accepted into this like society. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I think it goes back to that. We're trying to say, oh, people think, oh, you think you're better because of your skin color, like how people tell us all that all the time too. So it's like we're trying to separate because we think we're better than everybody else, and that's the narrative that's getting pushed, and it's just it's really ridiculous and really crazy that we.
It's almost like we're the black people of the black people because it's like, like like we can't separate. You know what I mean? And it's just like, okay, if we
Okay,
separate, oh,
yeah,
where you going?
because when black people want to build for themselves and want to empower their community and actually want to have something for themselves, what do white people come along and destroy that shit, right? They're like, oh fuck
Exactly.
it.
So
They
when we try to
bomb
do
it,
something,
they
oh,
do all
why are you
this
trying to
crazy
go
shit.
away?
Why are you trying to build something for yourself? No, you don't need that. No.
You saw what happened to the
Kind of like
panel,
the same thing. It is.
that other panel we was on.
Mm-hmm. You're so right. That is crazy, right? So Yeah, but it goes back to dating too. Let's go back to the topic of dating. Like if we do want to build a community, right? Like dating is going to be a big part of that, building families. Families are the basis, like cuz we see how in the black community how, there's a high single mother rate and how the family was destroyed. There's really no strong family structure and that really does affect the community in such a negative way. So, we got to know, hey, we got to have really good families, making sure we coming together and building families. So what do you guys think about like family building with it amongst ourselves? Like what do you guys think about that? Like it's very important because I think that family building it also goes back to wealth too and generation. That's how you build like generational wealth and stuff like that, by having like a strong family structure and making sure that you're building for your children and making sure you're leaving something behind for them and so they can build more. And it's like family, that's what like white people do.
Yeah.
They have generational wealth, like so like building generational wealth for our kids. So what do you
No,
think?
I agree. I agree with that. Like, I do think we need to, like I said earlier, we need to create those kind of environments where people could meet each other and stop feeling like, oh, you're dissing the black community if you get with someone that's like you. It's like you don't have to feel like you have a need to go somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but we were kind of talking about it earlier.
Absolutely. Okay, I think this was a good conversation. George just left, so I think what
But
I
you know what I was thinking?
oh yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking that, like, the media is the one that's kind of like pushing this idea that light skinned women need to be with dark skinned men.
Oh, good point.
And,
Yeah.
you
Interesting.
know, so the way, part of the way to fix it is to make sure you have media representation with, light skinned men, light skinned women, and, their children. And no one's saying that their children are going to look exactly like them, but the idea is just to have, that media representation there, and also to not let the guys get caught up in. I feel like another thing too is like the black community is in a gender war, but
Right.
a lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
mixed race men are caught up in the gender war just by virtue of being mixed. A lot of them are considered black or feel like they are black. So they're part of it too. So, like, if the men and women are in the gender war that the black community is in, they're going to be seeing the same issues, So, somehow we have to have our own narratives that don't have anything to do with the black community. Because I think their gender war has a lot to do with their culture and their phenotypes. And somehow, to me, like mixed and light skinned people, we don't have the same type of cultural expression. We don't have the same phenotype. So, in a way, we're different, but yet we're so affected by their gender war because we're in their community. So,
Sad.
if we can break away from that, yeah, we can be like really
That's
creating
where
our
I'm at
own
too. We gotta
families
let
and
them.
communities.
They don't.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, they don't want us to be the spokesman anyway. So I feel like we gotta let them. That's the issue between the black man, unmixed black man, quote unquote, and the unmixed black woman. Like, I feel like we need to definitely take that boulder off of our shoulders and
Oh,
just
we need to
focus
mind our
on.
biracial business. I agree with that. That's
Yeah,
where I'm at.
because
I'm like, then I'm
if we
gonna
get
put
in that conversation, it's only good
the
until it's not good, and then all of a sudden, oh, you white, you're a cave. You know what I mean? Like, they start trying to diss you.
yeah,
It's like, all right,
cave blood, the
I'm over here. Think
Neanderthal.
about like how much money have we probably all donated to black
A
causes
lot.
and get
I
nothing
support black.
in return.
Yeah, yeah. Supporting black business. Who's gonna support a biracial business? Who's
Right, you already see when they put us in when we're in commercials, everybody got a problem with it. It's like, remember that
and
Shea Moisture with the mixed
yes,
girl,
I remember that.
and everybody was mad. She's not black. Ah, da, da, da. And it's like, okay, like, why are you
Yeah,
mad?
that's a big thing too.
Like,
The whole preference talk and like, oh, there's a lot of shaming. Like I see that with when black men date light skinned women and they're like, oh, that's the preference and stuff like that. There's a lot of shaming there too. But it's like they should be like, I support them be with their own women, and then light skinned women and light skinned they could get together and there's nothing wrong with that. We just gotta see that as like an option, like I
wasn't there
said.
like a song that a woman was like, she said something like light skin is
Yellow
what he
bones,
want or
yellow
something
bones,
like
what do you
that.
want? And that got a lot of backlash.
And it was mad
Got a
as
lot of
hell.
backlash. Oof,
I was like,
yeah, that's
man.
Um,
It's crazy
hilarious.
because like, how come it's like they could be unapologetic, but it's like we, we can't. You know what I mean? Like,
It's colorism if we love ourselves too much, that's colorism. So it's a lot, yeah. It's a lot of programming there that, it's going to be continuous conversation. We're not going to all solve our issues in one conversation, right? It's going to be like a continuous thing. But with the programming thing too, like with the media, I think that's an important aspect of things, very much so. And yeah, we definitely got to promote media of us together, like especially because we're not going by like remember back in the day it was more like TV shows, but nobody really watched TV. Like it's more about social media, so you could choose your own media nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Like you could choose what
yeah,
there's millions of YouTube channels, millions of like whatever Instagram pages, face whatever social media you're using, you could create your own type of media that you consume. So that's like a big difference nowadays that you could actually go out and choose, you know, to fill your with positive images of like people who look like you. Like you could choose that now. So it's not something that's in no other people's hands nowadays. Like back in the day when it was like TV programming and it's like other people are choosing what you consume for you because there was a
that's true.
limited amount of options, but nowadays it's like we have more power over that. So yeah. Yep, yep,
Nah,
yep.
that's so true. Do y'all remember what happened with that? Remember that Drake situation with the blackface thing?
Oh yeah, I
Well,
remember that back
there's
in the
so
day.
there's so many situations, but I'm just gonna point out this one. Like I remember just when that situation happened and all the black
It was
spaces,
bad.
and everyone, these people aren't black. Look, see, we need to stop. I literally watched a panel of just four black men, and at the end they took a vote. Like, so we all agree that they're not black. Like, this is how deep it gets, right? Like, I'm
Hmm.
like, why are y'all so worried about us? Like, god damn.
Hmm.
It's
Um,
like,
excuse me. There seems to be a lot of gatekeeping. That's the term. I mean,
yes.
trying to make a determination who's this ethnic group and who is not the ethnic group. I find it amazing that people who were not there where their mothers were giving birth to them, that they're the ones that deciding who they are. I mean, this, and I've seen this a few times on my platform. Um, I remember one time we were having a discussion regarding how can we work well with our female coworkers. So it went down from talking about how we can work proper, have a healthy work relationship with our female coworkers until we're getting into the very regarding who doesn't look Dominican a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pointless conversation, honestly. It's just like kind of trying to because I see, that's something that is a conversation in our communities. It's like, oh, being inclusive. People feel like inclusivity is a threat to them, right? Because it's like because I kind of understand. It's like we get absorbed by other cultures so easily because we don't really have our own culture. We don't really have our own identity, so we get absorbed by other cultures so much. So like a lot of people in these spaces want exclusive spaces for us alone. And I'm like, okay, that's absolutely fine. That's okay. I get that. Like I totally get where that's coming from. And a lot of people view like that's where a lot of this like, oh, you're not this, you're not this, you're not this, because it's like trying to keep it exclusive because people are afraid of being absorbed by
Well, you
another.
know what? You know what, Magic? You know what's
You know?
something I can't tell you? I can't tell you you're not mulatto. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference between this
Facts.
panel and like going on another panel where someone can try to tell you you're not this or that. Like I can't tell you I can't, we're the same, right? I can't tell you that.
Exactly,
So,
exactly, exactly. I totally agree with that. Oh, you can't hear me? Hold on. He says he can't hear me. Is everybody here? Can everybody hear?
Yeah, I
I
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Okay, good. He's talking about he can't hear. But hi, Terrell. Welcome. Thank you. Hi. Thank you for being part of the conversation. So, but there's a lot more to get into. So, I kind of want to bring up a spicy topic a little bit. A little spicy. A little spicy. So, you know how
you
in the
got
black, you guys heard about, oh, go ahead, Ann. What'd you say?
Well,
now go
speaking
ahead, go
about
ahead.
spicy, I'm sorry. Speaking about spicy topics, I plan a spicy topic for my platform for next week.
Ooh, what is
Um,
it? Got some spice?
does does a high body count really matters?
Ooh, that's a little spicy.
You said the high body count?
Ooh, that's a little spicy. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna
So
be
here's
there
my
for
little
that.
spicy take. Okay, you know how in the black community they talk about the gay agenda. Have you guys heard about that? The gay agenda.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
Yeah.
you guys think that affects our community? Like a gay agenda? Like people trying to you know persuade people or something into being gay to like have you guys because I say this because I was asking somebody about because they live in a population where it's a lot of mixed people and they were like, oh well, a lot of them are gay, and I was like, what? So I was like, dang. So do you guys think like the gay agenda, like do you guys think that's a real thing, and does that affect us? Like you guys, what do you guys think?
I think it does because Gen Z, who a lot of them are mixed race, are
Mm-hmm.
actually being taught, all of the gay agendas, coming from
Oh
the
my
school system.
god.
So you're choosing your pronouns, you're exploring where you are on the continuum of male, female. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're influenced by it much more than, maybe 10 years before.
Yeah.
They're heavily influenced by it.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
That's
parents
such
are
a really
afraid to like say anything to their kids because they're afraid, that something's gonna happen to them, right? So they don't want to tell
uh-huh.
their kids nothing. So their kids go to school, and it's like they are learning
Ooh,
from these teachers who have these agendas. So I definitely agree, and see that I think it's affecting all like American
all
kids in
people.
public schools.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So definitely we're affected by it.
Yeah, and they're
That
really
definitely.
pushing it hard too. They're pushing it
Mm-hmm.
really, really hard. Yeah, so I don't know. You gotta do what my grandmother did. She would put out little books and stuff, and we would be like, "Hey, look at this book. What's
Mm-hmm.
in here?" And it was all kind of stuff about, just like sex and, STDs and stuff like that. But it's like we would stumble across it and be like, "Oh my God," we go in a little room and read it and stuff. But I feel like instead of letting the school teach your kids, you have to figure out creative ways to teach your kids. You can't let the school do it.
I tell my son
Facts.
straight up. My son is 12.
Straight
I
up.
tell him straight. Like I'm like, all that stuff that ain't nah. And I told him
No.
this too. I was like, just because you have a teacher, that doesn't mean I was like, I be trying to tell him like your teacher doesn't know everything. I was like, if your teacher teaches English, you're going there to learn English. You're not going there to learn nothing about what goes on outside. You know what I mean? And I was like, just because
Exactly.
they say something doesn't mean it's right. So I always try to teach him that.
That's
But
so true. I need
Um,
to talk to you. Yeah, go ahead, Jose.
I this is what I think. People should be taught to respect people for who they are.
Mm-hmm.
What gets a little crazy when they get into how the genders flow and what have you, and that one day one person's a male, the next person, that same person's a female, and that person is like undefined. I mean, just it's gotten so bad. Like in my case, I work for local government. So let's say one of you ask me where's the restroom is. So technically, according to our procedure, I have to tell you, well, the ladies' room is over there, the men's room is over there, and the gender neutral bathroom is over there.
Wow.
Oh, see, that will affect us in particularly because we already don't date each other, and then we add like gender confusion into the mix. Oh, we can't do that, y'all. Like we got to make sure that you're a
facts.
boy, this is a girl, this is what this is, and keep it. We don't need that type of confusion in our community. Was I respect gay people, I respect LGBTQ people. I know that that's but I'm saying like something that like trying to force that type of things on people is not okay at all whatsoever. We got to
Yeah,
Another
make
they're
reason
so
why.
focused on making the kids explore. They're so focused on trying to make your kids explore stuff that in the past it would have been shunned. And then by the time you're 25, you kind of like, no, look, I'm not into this.
I'm not into
But now they want everybody to go out and explore. So
mm,
I feel like you are losing quite a few kids to this exploration where they
facts.
may just be confused. And if they had to just stayed on a straight and narrow path, no pun intended, they would be, yeah,
Well,
they would be like home free at 25, basically.
I would say
well,
something
what?
that we should also think about doing is taking your kids to different countries, like non-westernized countries. Like I've been to like Ethiopia before, right? And it's very conservative. Like you don't even see people holding hands. Like that's not even a thing. You can't even hold hands in public. If you like kiss in public, that's like looked at as like taboo. So I'm already planning like, man, I got to take my son here to show him a different world. Like, look, everything
It's
is not
amazing.
America. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Yeah, we have to travel outside of America because we be in our own little bubble. And what Mulatto Mermaid said, the white community tries to force it is like the liberal, the super extremists, like a liberal people trying to force like their views and points on other people and trying to shame people if they don't agree with their viewpoints and call it like transphobic or homo or all this stuff. It's kind of like these shaming tactics come from everywhere if you're not accepting
They
people's
do.
there's so much program. That's why we do have to come up with our own programming that'll benefit
And
us.
BLM was another one too. BLM was another one really pushing it
Mm,
onto the community and kids. You know, once they got a certain number of people out there, they started coming out with those rainbow flags with the BLM fists. So, and there were a lot of like teenagers and stuff marching for BLM of different races. So of course they were listening to the different rhetoric from BLM on you know, transphobia and homophobia. You know, they were listening to that rhetoric. So it's them too. It's them too.
of course, because there's going to be there's a lot of gay mixed people, just like every community has gay people, right? And I respect them, but like I said, it's like something that we don't, a lot of ideology, it's just the ideology aspect that's not going to benefit all of us, as a community whatsoever,
We got to
so.
understand also that some people are just going to be, they're going to be, black identifying forever and white identifying
Oh, for
forever.
sure. And I
And
accept
it's
that.
like,
Oh, for sure.
I accept how
Um,
people whatever they want to identify. I would never force nobody into identity they don't want to identify as. I only want to be around people who choose or willingly and they want to identify as, what they are biracial. So
um,
yeah,
excuse me.
yeah.
I can't believe that in a Senate hearing regarding the confirmation of someone to become a Supreme Court justice, that they actually asked the nominee, how do you define a female? How do you define a woman? And it's like, you're asking, you're asking a woman, how do you define what a woman is? I mean, I didn't know that this was basic biology. I thought this was like to serve in the Supreme Court. I mean,
See,
it's
that's the
crazy.
bullshit I'm against. I'm against this bullshit trying to change trying to get rid of gender and trying to say it doesn't exist and there's no such thing. Oh, a woman is just anybody. No, a woman is somebody who was born with ovaries and a uterus and a vagina. That's what a woman is. All these people trying to change the definitions of things and trying to like make it seem like anybody could be a woman. Like I'm so against that. Like I really am. I don't. I
yeah,
think it's
because
trying
it's
to
so,
hurt
it's disrespectful
women.
to women,
It's so disrespectful to
It
Um,
women.
really is. And
Hmm.
it's really mostly women that are affected by it. Like you don't notice a lot of people trying to be men, but you do notice a lot of men, you know, wanting to say that they're women. So it
yeah.
affects us more.
Exactly.
And they were even doing like transplanting people's uteruses so that you know these men could have babies. I mean,
This
they're
is.
really taking it quite far. So
Hmm.
I hope that, you know, like when she was being sworn in, I was like, I kind of feel like this is a loss in a sense for women because, you know, you have to be willing to stand up, you know, as a woman
For
to
a
try to,
woman, for
yeah,
real.
fight
You
for
can speak
women
out
because it's already men there, you know, like fighting for what's best for them. So I don't know
against
why you would come in as a woman and just erase
being a woman.
womanhood
What is
as
a
we know it.
woman? Like, oh, you can't just identify, just like you can't just have you noticed, I noticed this one time they compared biracial community to the trans community because they were like, oh, these biracials, they just identify as black and but they're not really black, just like how trans people, they try to identify as a woman but they're not really a woman. I've heard that comparison before. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys think that's like a accurate comparison, that like, if a biracial person identifies as black, just because you identify as such doesn't mean that you are. What do you guys think about that?
Well, if I can just, I'm sorry, if I can just chime in. First of all, there's a big difference between someone who is biracial or multiracial and someone that's been surgically altered to change
Mm-hmm.
their
That's a big
identity.
difference. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a big difference. And I'm
Yep.
sorry.
It
I
was
mean,
coming from I heard that comment on like remember the Fox Soul panel about, oh, biracial people, they're not black. And it was a comment from that one. They're trying to say that, we're not really black just because we identify it. Just because so many, because the biracial woman on there was trying to like fight for her black identity, her black card. So yeah, but So everybody in the comments were like, "No, you're not black." You identified because they were saying like they made a good point. Like you could be culturally black, right? Biracial. Some biracial are culturally black, but you're biracial still at the end of the day. But yeah, when it comes to this, I got an important point to say about this. We got a lot of fucking bullshit programming from the white community with like the whole gender confusion bullshit, and there's a lot of negative programming from the black community about trying to guilt us and make us feel bad about being light skinned and being mixed, and we're half cave blood and all these, and we have to be really aware
Yeah.
of it. We have to be really aware of these negative programmings that affect us in a negative way because they're not benefiting us. Like none of these programs are helping us in any sort of way, so we gotta
Well, I would say this too. Like, I never, people try to use that, like, try to diss me for being part white or whatever. But it's funny because I've never been ashamed of that, right? Like I said,
good.
my mother's
I used to be
Italian.
very ashamed.
I've always loved
Mhm.
that. I was like, I like that culture and that history. So you're not gonna shame me out of that. You know what I mean? So it's like,
No, I fell for it one time. I used to hate that. I used to be so ashamed and embarrassed. I felt like I was a fucking like I shouldn't even exist. And there's a lot of mixed people I've seen that happen. Like I've seen a lot of videos of saying, "Yeah, I'm mixed, but I don't think mixed people should even exist. We shouldn't even be here. There's too
someone
many
just said that
people.
about me the other day on a panel. Like, this is why we shouldn't mix with white people. Like
This is
shit
why we
like
shouldn't
that.
mix."
I'm
I
like,
got comments like that on my channel before. It's like, "Oh yeah, all this
Oh
mixing is just
wow.
confusion." You know what I'm saying? A lot of that's why I did a stream talking about you know how do we heal from internalized anti-mix narratives, because I had a lot of internalized anti-mix narratives, feeling like I'm ashamed that I'm that I'm mixed. I'm ashamed
I
that
think it
it's
it,
something
it
that,
it it
you
it
know
comes from like doing stuff like this, and also just creating that community so we could be, basically grow together, so we could be more comfortable and kind of shake that anti-white. That's another
yeah.
thing we have too. Like, it's like we get taught to like hate white people in a way, right? Like,
Yeah, a
and then
lot of
it
us
makes
do.
you
A
kind of
lot of us do because of the history. Look at what they did to the black community. I did. I was there. And I had to heal from that. Like my son being born like very white passage made me heal from. I had to face that. I actually have white blood in me, and I have to learn how to accept it. It's about self love at the end of the day, and learning to accept. This is where I come from, but I'm not white. I'm not black. I am my whole. Oh, I'm a mulatto. I'm my own being. I'm something new that's created.
say
I'm
it with your
whole being.
chest.
Say with my chest. Yes, yes. And I don't, and I have love and respect for both communities that I come from. I want to maintain like a positive relationship with both communities I come from. And I want to create my own fucking community that, we could, build and, even compete and actually like thrive and actually, build wealth and actually, have gain power so we could help our community and making sure that, and yeah, I think it's very, but like I said, we got to make sure like all these programmings that between whatever, like shaming us out of dating each other, that affects us, shame, like the whole like that affects us. If you want to build we have to have a healthy relationship with each other as men and women. We have to see, like, I do want us to see like biracial people like see us as a people, like, oh, these are my people. Like you see another biracial, oh, that's my people right there. Like that's like part of my
Yeah.
family. So we're like an extended genetic family that that we share an identity with each other, because we don't really share an identity with white people. We don't share an identity with black people really, but we could share an identity with each other and we could build on that, right? So
Mhm.
Right.
hmm
Yeah.
yep. So y'all got anything to say? I'm gonna close this stream out. I think it was really good. What do y'all think?
This
Yeah,
is
I
really
like this
it was
topic.
a
serious.
very good stream, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, Jose. Yeah, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy Anthony, Futures Golden, Georgia. I think y'all all brought a lot of great things to the table. It was a great conversation, and I think I'm. And we gotta do some more of these. We gotta come together. We gotta collab. We gotta. So yeah.
Speaking about collabing, I plan to do a stream on my platform regarding, do mixed and Latino people do they have common issues? Because I think there's some things that we do, issues that we do share in common. So I would like to, in fact, I would like to discuss it further with you, Magic, you know, outside, because I would like you to co-host it with me if you would consider it.
Of course, I would love that. Yeah, I'm totally for it. I'm all about this. I'm committed. I'm really happy. It's like we got to take ourselves serious. If we want to be taken seriously as a people, we got to take ourselves seriously, and we got to, build. And I do want to, unify and build positive relationships with all community, Latino community, with the white, with even the white community, even black community, all of them.
Well, like you
So,
said, we have to see ourselves as, a
our own.
people, right? So
Mhm,
we can be like, okay, we're not, racially black, we're not racially white, we're our own people, and we can
mhm.
deal with white people how we want to. We're not going to be shamed by the black community, right, to not deal with white people,
Exactly.
or vice
Fact.
versa, right? We're like, no, look, that's
Exactly.
on you.
We're
We're
not
gonna do what
picking
we
a
want to do.
side. Yeah, we're not like sitting here, oh, picking this side or this side. It's like, no, we're gonna build, positive relationships. Who want to build positive? It's a two-way street. If you want to build a positive, like Jose say, you cool with me, I'm cool with you, type of thing.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
exactly.
I feel like we should be able to have an alliance with the white community as well as the black community while retaining our own identity. Like, it doesn't have to be that we're just a part of the black community only and, we should be shunning white people all the time. And then you have white parents and white grandparents. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So
hmm
definitely.
absolutely, and we have to get rid of these programs, like I said, that make us ashamed of our both our community we come from, and you know, we're gonna deal with whoever we want to deal with. We're gonna do us.
Yeah,
We're
because
gonna
think about it. When
build it.
people come here from other countries, like African countries, they do business with anybody. You know what I mean? We need to be like that.
Hi, Terrell. Welcome. How you doing?
Hey,
Well, good.
Terrell.
How
Good
is
evening,
everybody?
Sarah.
How you
Uh,
doing? What's up?
I'm good. I've been great.
Awesome. Thank you for subbing and welcome to the stream. But yeah, I want to answer your question. So I'm half black, half white.
So I see this is the biracial sector.
Yep. This is the biracial space. Yep. Welcome.
I don't normally I don't normally come around here a lot because I'm not biracial. I'm
hmm
fully black.
Awesome.
So, but I don't got nothing against biracials.
I appreciate that. That's good. We
I
appreciate
just
you.
want to say that I do feel like biracials do need to appreciate and accept both of their sides, but I'm
hmm
mainly going to talk about the ones that mix with black and white because
hmm
here in
Yeah.
America they can't celebrate the white side because 'cause the white side don't want to accept biracials because that why a lot of
hmm
biracials want to stick to the black side because often the white side not as open and kind of
hmm
racist to them. They always say that the
That's
black man
true.
is more open because black people accept anybody, everybody. They love meeting different groups of people. They probably love other groups of people more than they love their own.
But
Hmm.
that's true. It's hard to celebrate a side of a hey Irby, thank you for coming on the stream. But it is hard to celebrate a side
What's
of
up?
ourselves that have historically rejected us. So that's very true. It's a good point. But here's how I look at it too. With the one drop rule, because that was them trying to separate from us and having nothing to do with like mulatto people, right? That was them trying to like, hey, we don't claim y'all, we don't want nothing to do with y'all, right? And here's how I look at it. I'm like, that was a racist thing that they did. It was very racist. But still, at the end of the day, my parents and my ancestors, I still have to love and accept them because that's how I got here. That's where I come from at the end of the day. So I'm still gonna love and accept like my ancestry, and I don't like what they did. I don't like that. I don't like that aspect. I cannot like that behavior. I don't like. There's a lot of things I criticize the white community. We all do this as biracial people. We're like, hey, we're gonna call out a lot of bullshit that comes from the white community. That we've dealt with that's hurt us as a community. But at the same time, I still have to find like love and acceptance with my ancestors. And yeah, but hey, Uri, thank you for coming. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for
Yeah,
being
because I
here.
was the only one left in the chat.
Hey,
Yeah,
Ivy, how you doing?
Hey, Future. Hey, Jose.
Good
y'all don't
evening,
want this stream to
Irby.
end, huh? I was about to end it, and y'all pop up like, okay,
This is your first live stream.
we're gonna let it ride. So
What's
yeah,
that,
what's
Terrell?
What?
What'd you say, Terrell?
This is your first live stream.
mine?
Talking to me?
Oh yeah, this where I was asking Matt Shipmalata, is this her first live stream?
No, I've been live streaming since like August or so. I'm still kind of new, so yeah. But no, I do a
Okay.
lot of live streams on these topics. I talk about like I focus on like multiracial, biracial, mulatto issues and stuff like that. Trying to connect with other mixed people and trying to like build like a sense of community in these spaces. Irby's a very good supporter of mine. He's so supportive, and I'm so happy to hear your voice, and I'm happy that you're here. So yeah.
So you trying to reconnect with other biracials that are black and white or mixed with anything?
So I'm pretty inclusive because I think in America, all mixed people identity erased. I because anyway, we have a certain dynamics that because I did a stream with like Blasians, that I was trying to learn from their perspective on things, and they don't really have that sense of like, oh, you can't really embrace like your Asian side because you hate your black like they know that they're mixed from the get, like they have a totally different dynamic than like mulatto people, but they're very supportive of like a lot of mixed people who are like who have different mixes, but they're very supportive of us like mulatto people because we do have a different dynamic being born of two different races and cultures that have historically been at war with each other and have such a bad history with each other versus like two different communities that are like cool with each other. Like it's a totally different dynamic. So a lot of people are supportive, but I am inclusive to like all mixed people who want to have their voices, a platform for letting mixed people hear their voices and but I do like to focus a lot on like the mulatto community too, but I like to learn to talk to anybody who's I talk to anybody. I don't like I'm pretty inclusive though. Like I got a lot of criticism for that, but that platform I want to do whatever I want with the platform, so yeah.
But, but yeah, I like to say this about the Blasians. I heard in the Asian community, like in China, they okay with
Mm-hmm.
race mix if it Asian and white, but if it black and
That's,
Asian, they look down upon it.
that's so true. I watched a documentary about that too. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Because I talked to like we have people in our community like Blasian King. He's like South Asian and Black mix, but they're different. It's a little different than like East Asians because it's like they are dark skin. Like South Asians are more like darker skin, so it's like a
Oh
little
yes,
different dynamic. So
they very
yeah.
dark.
So so it's like there's so many different like I like learning about all different mixed race experiences. I think it's all interesting topic to me because it's like not something we really like get to hear about too much, and I really want to have more exposure. Like that was like the description of my it's like bringing more awareness to like mixed race experiences and like having their voices be letting us speak for ourselves. But I also do want to make sure we keep our because I think mixed is like an umbrella term, but like mulatto, Blasian, wage, like these are like more like exclusive terms, like specific terms of what your mixture is specifically. So like I do want us to have all of us, all mixed people have their own identities respected. That's what I really truly do want at the end of the day. Yep.
Exactly.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
agree
that's
with
kind of
that.
like
Yeah, we need a specific term. And I know they want to reclaim the word mulatto. So hopefully that can go through, because I know the gentleman the last time was saying is very unlikely, but I think it feels like to me it depends on where in the USA you are, because it might be like in some areas they accept the term more than others. So hopefully it goes through. But I'm actually going to drop down, and I had a
have a
great
good
time on the
night.
panel. Thanks for inviting me up.
My
Of
And
pleasure.
It was
yes.
good. Yeah, this is a little long one for me. I ain't gonna lie, but I'm gonna talk to Terrell and Irby. This is my first time having them on the panel, so I'm gonna let it ride to talk to them.
Yeah, let it ride. And it was nice meeting you, Terrell. Have a good night, Irby. Good night, Jose. Good night, Max.
Good night.
Good
You
night,
too,
everybody.
Jose.
Hopefully, I come back over here again.
Hmm But yeah, Terrell. So like my last stream, because remember, I think you know me from Radical Latinos channel, right?
Yes.
So I did a stream with him the other day on my channel about it was about learning about like Latin America because Latin America is a mostly mixed country. So I was trying to
Oh
learn
yes,
about
most
that's like
definitely.
so I was trying to learn about and then like he did the stream like with multiracial unity and stuff like that. But I do want to do a stream about like the black community, how we could have like a positive relationship with the biracial people, because I feel like a lot of people have been pushed out of the black community and be like, hey, no, you can't be the face of blackness, and really we don't want you representing what blackness is, and that's fine. I totally respect that, you know what I'm saying, but I do want because there's a lot of fear of like there's a lot of like in the like the pro black community, not like in the general, but there's a lot of fear of like mulatto people rising up and turning against black people, and I just want to like talk about like, hey, that's not nobody's intention. Nobody want to do that. That's why there's a lot of pushback for biracial people forming their own community. Because there's a lot of negative programming, negative narratives that's been pushed about like, oh, these mulatto people, they're going to be the destruction of the black civilization. There's a whole book written about that, like mulatto people being the destruction of black civilization and all this stuff. That's like, but I do want to like form a positive relationship with like the black community and black people, and making sure like, hey, no, we want to make sure that we're still connected to you guys. We're not trying to, you know, we're still connected. We're still should be allies, but it should be like a positive win-win relationship where you guys, you guys see us as what we are. You guys respect us as biracial, as mixed, and then we respect. We always will. So what do you think about that, Terrell? And Irby, I want to hear from you too. What you guys think about that? I want to do a stream like that in the future with Kevin.
about about the biracials trying to have a positive image with black people.
No, like trying to have like a positive like relationship there, like a positive like between these two different, like if we are starting to form our own community, I wanted to make sure that we maintain a positive
To
relationship with.
me, I always thought we already had a good relationship. It's just that some groups
Mm-hmm.
just don't want to accept biracial because they don't see them as full black and they see them as outsiders, and they just
Exactly.
want an idealistic, typical looking black person. Because a lot of them, some of the extremists, some of them
Mm-hmm.
just don't want nothing that don't look black. If you look something
Mm-hmm.
completely different from them, they don't think you don't belong here and belong somewhere else. But I have to say, the
Mm-hmm.
ones that are the biracial that are mixed with black, they still part of the black community. So we do have to accept them if we like it or not. But
Yeah,
I
and
do
we.
accept, I do like it. So
Mm-hmm. And what you think about that, Irby? I want to hear from you
I
too.
agree. I agree 100%. Terrell
Thank
said.
you. Yeah, right. And yeah, maybe we could all do, because Kevin, right? I talked to Kevin. I emailed him. I was like, I want to do a live stream about that in the future, building, because we're trying to build unity amongst ourselves first. Like I feel like that's the problem with like trying to build unity with other communities. If like we don't really truly feel united within ourselves, like how we need to know what unity feels like first, before we could like unite other people and stuff. I want that too. I want to get there to that point too. So it's like, so yeah, but yeah, that's kind of, yeah. So I think we should all help each other, unite, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm doing another live stream with Radical Latino on Monday. I forgot the
oh
topic.
yes, I've been following radical Latino for years.
Yeah, so are you for you're for brown and black unity?
Oh yes, if
That's
I
good.
am I am for it. If the other side is for it and they want to work together and meet up and have some goals and plans and everything, I'm up for it.
Hmm.
I
As
think
long as it benefits us both.
okay.
I love
The
that.
way
I love to see
um
that. I think that's beautiful. I
yeah.
love it. I am, yeah. So yeah, I
Oh,
have to
That
Jose
do.
want to say something.
Yeah, the way I see it is that those we should be trying to link up with those who want to link up with us. Okay, those individuals and groups, for other reasons, they don't want to link up with us. You know, they can go their separate ways. The fact of the matter is, if you want to achieve a goal, I mean, you do have to have allies. I mean, but and
Mhm.
because without allies, you're not going to achieve whatever goal you have. Um,
I
and
agree.
again, whoever's cool with me, I'm cool with them. It is that simple.
Period. Exactly. And that you just gotta find the people who want to unify, because there's always gonna be people who don't, and you gotta respect people who don't, because you know it's not like 100% of people are gonna, no, that's not within any group that 100% of people agree that they should do this, but you just gotta find the people who do want it and build with that, and if people don't, you gotta respect that too, because you can't really force, like, unity is nothing that should be forced on anybody. That's more of like a stimulation, like you have to be like me, or you have to do this, or that's not real true unity. But I do think that like there's a lot of people who do want it. You just got to focus on those ones that actually do want, unity, because and you got to respect the reasons of people who don't want it, and be like, okay, I respect. I hear them out. I hear the concerns. I think that's very important, of hearing the concerns of people who don't, but also like respecting that we shouldn't. But it should be I think it goes back to money always at the end of the day, and it's about what are we really like building. It's about building. Mostly it's building our community, trying to build each other up, right? Trying to help each other build each other up. So yeah,
I think part of it would help if we would have a deeper understanding regarding the biracial community because for some people, I'm
I
sorry,
can't
they
hear
don't
you that
want to.
well, Courtney. Hear you that well. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Okay, I can hear you better. Okay, there we go.
Do you want me to repeat my last statement
Yeah,
or?
what did you say? I didn't hear you.
Okay, I said that I think part of the problem is that you have people who have no idea about the biracial and multiracial community. And, you know, and I think what we need to do is learn what we can about the community and,
Exactly.
to be mindful that everyone is different and be mindful of the fact in every community, you have some people who are, yeah, people who are very good and you have some people who are very bad. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing in every community. But you cannot
Mm-hmm.
condemn the whole community because one or two people don't
Facts.
act a certain way.
Facts. Exactly, because we're always looking at like the worst of each community and judging the whole community by its. That's a bad habit that I think a lot of people have. It's just like, oh, I see the worst in you, and you don't see the good in them, and it's like you only focus on the negative aspect of this community, and that you judge that the whole community is like that. So I think that's something that people need to stop doing and actually just every community has good and bad, but you try to just be neutral and try to work with the good. You know and try to work with the
Exactly.
good. So,
Exactly. And in fact, at one point, I was trying, or at least one person tried to discourage me from interacting with the biracial, multiracial community. And, it's just like, again, there's good and bad in everyone. And look, and to be honest, the reality is I receive a great deal of love from the biracial and multiracial community.
yep, yep. And I totally agree with that. And I'm gonna end it on that note. Like I think that we absolutely like every community or something we interactive. Just try to see the good and the bad, and try to just work with the good. You know, and I think that's the best thing we could do. That's the best attitude we could have. And hold on, somebody's trying to jump on the screen. Hold on. Oh, there's Will. Hello, welcome. I was
Hey,
about
how
to.
you doing, lady?
Hi, how you doing tonight?
All right. I just wanted to jump in and say, what y'all think about what the two brothers in the chat was talking about, uh, us biracials getting together and hosting, having like an event hosted.
I'm 100% supportive of it. I would promote it. I would actually definitely want to be a part of that. Oh, I think Irby left. But I actually want to be a part of that. Absolutely. Do you have a Discord or anything? Maybe you could like email me, and then we could like start like planning to do that. And actually like I think that'd be very good for our community if we start having these meetups and start organizing that. I think that'd be the best thing for us because that I got some criticism with that. It's like, oh, we're only doing stuff online. We're not doing anything in real life. And I'm kind of like, yeah, we
Right.
should try to organize and do things offline because I think that and being in person is a lot different than talking to somebody behind a computer screen. So yeah,
I think it would be very empowering and, uh, it would just be a good space to build.
I
Uh,
absolutely want that. Yes.
and I think it would, I think people would take to it,
Mhm.
fast.
I think it would be great. I think it would be something like okay, because I got a family, right? Because I do want to go to Vegas. I do want to go to Vegas. I ain't gonna lie, but I know like we can have like a hotel room and we can all meet up and then we can have like events planned and then we can have like a grown folk night and go out and have fun, just the grown folks, and then we can have like a family day where we take our kids and go do stuff with our kids and and like I think that would be beautiful. I would
Yeah.
I
I mean, even something like a cruise ship,
cruise would be
it's a lot of
amazing.
options, a lot of
There's so
options,
much we could do. Yeah, I think
Right.
we should
We could have a dress theme. I mean, we could really go all the way with something like that.
absolutely. That's
And at the same time, it's going to draw the type of media attention that we would want. The type of
absolutely.
it's going to start garnering our respect from the other communities. Like, hey, look at how they coming together and building. You know,
Exactly.
and we might, Drake might show up or J. Cole or somebody. You know,
Hey, that would be dope. Alicia Keys, or there's a lot of them. Holly Berry,
right,
somebody.
right.
That would be
Get
lit.
some famous guest speakers and performers.
Yeah, we got Ellie
Obama.
Mom. We got a lot Obama.
We good on it. and
No, I think it's a great thing. I actually feel like that is divine. That I think that's exactly what we need, you guys. Like honestly. And do you have a email or anything we could start every because we all got job. I got money. I be blowing my money on dumb stuff, and it's like I could start saving up for that. I think that's such an amazing goal. Like start saving up for that, and taking a cruise ship, and I think we should all do that. Like we're all gonna plan like
yeah,
meet up on.
I'm gonna send you some because I got you on Facebook too, I think. So I'm gonna send you a message trying to build more on it. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think especially if people reach out to us and say like, hey, I want to attend, but not financially able, we can have some type of fundraise fundraiser where we can support those
Yes,
who want to attend but can't afford you know to make the trip.
I think is a wonderful idea. Honestly, I want to. Yes, I think we all need
And
that. I think
I
yes.
think you got one of the best platforms to kind of be a big push behind it.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I do want to do everything we can to support, us coming together and maybe because I got a brand sponsorship too. Maybe they would help. Maybe they would help pitch in with that too. If a bunch of because their brand is like you see it right there. Hold on, let me like do the screen real quick. Hold on. Where is it? Hold on. Let me try to change the layout to like yeah. You see the magic. You see the mosaic, the label.
Right.
Well, maybe they could help out with like funding with that. Maybe just getting mixed people together, and then we could like help promote their brand and like you know what I'm saying. Like a bunch of mixed people coming together, wearing their clothes, and that would help like support their brand, and they would actually help sponsor our trip or something. Like I would probably maybe I could reach out to them about that. Who knows? I think that
Oh
would
yeah,
be
because if they sponsored, then we could all show up wearing the
the
attire, showing the united front.
exactly, and just promoting it like on our Instagram. I think that would be such an amazing thing. So I'm gonna actually reach out to them about that. I'm gonna be like, hey, so maybe we can all like you know um you could help support like a whole meetup of us like biracial people coming together having fun and meeting each other. And yeah, I definitely am for that. I'm really excited about that. Actually, I really want that. Yes, we're gonna make that happen, bro. I'm on board. I think all of us, we all pull our resources together. We all work. I got money. You know what I'm saying? We got money. We making money, and
Right.
yeah. So yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I could go like if I was told that hey it's tomorrow, hey I'm there. You know.
Okay. Okay. I want to go to. So there's so much we could do. I want to go to Vegas and I want to go on a cruise. So that could be like the first two. What do you think would be better,
Yeah,
cruise or Vegas? I kind of want to go to Vegas. I've never been to Vegas.
Vegas.
I say we start with Vegas. Yeah,
Yeah.
start with Vegas.
Let's start with Vegas. Okay, I want to go to Vegas because I'm not that far away from Vegas. I live in a couple states over. It's not that far away. It's like a couple hour flight. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I'm in Texas, so it ain't
Let's try to make it happen. Okay, we could do this in the summer. We could have a lot of time to plan, a lot of time to, but we could do it like we could plan for the summertime to make it happen. What do you think?
yeah, because we got to give people a far enough in advance notice, to where
Exactly.
they can start planning around it.
Yeah, we could start. We could start building on it, and we could have a goal by like July. I think by July would be good.
Hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Tell him to email me. I don't know if he's still here. He probably left, but I'm gonna tell him to email me. But you reach out to me. Thank you for jumping on the panel, and I'm gonna end the stream, guys. And yeah, will email me. My email is in my description. So email me, and yeah, this was so fun. I love this conversation. It was beautiful. A lot of amazing things come out of it. Thank you, Terrell. You're invited and welcome on my panel anytime. Of course, Jose, you're invited and welcome anytime. I'm
Well,
gonna jump
thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Will, thank you. This is my first time speaking to you, and it's good to speak to you. And it was a great. You just gave me life right now. Like I have so
Yeah,
much.
I've been checking in with you, listening. But I wanted to get on and kind of vocalize that, and yeah, it got me excited. I was
Excited.
just
Yeah.
reading, and I was like, I'm ready for this.
Oh yeah. I am so with it. So yeah. So we got a couple of people with that, and will email me. And I think we should have like a group like chat or something where we could all like plan it out and start all coming together and building on it. And yeah, I'm totally.
Mulata,
Yep,
Definitely.
Herbie.
I sent you another email. I don't know if
Oh,
you
thank
get it
you.
or
I'm
not.
gonna check my email right now. I'm gonna jump off this and go check my email. But it was a great night, guys. Thank you for coming out. It was wonderful. All right,
Yeah,
you guys have a
All
wonderful
right.
it was
night.
great.
Until next time. I love this
Everybody,
one. You guys have a good
Okay.
night.
Everybody, see
Yeah,
y'all
well,
later.
yeah, well, good night, everybody. Magic,
Night.
thank you very much for allowing me on your platform.
Of course, as always. I'll be on your platform too. I'm gonna become support you. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good night, everybody. Be safe.
Bye.
thank you, Magic.